the answer to life, the universe, and everything, plus 100.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a mighty episode 142 of Nerd Generations. As always, I am one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Judson. Hello, sir.
The things I do for you people to make you happy, to be your dancing monkey. I just go back to that picture Steve draws while he's out in France of him being a dancing monkey for the troops.
Yeah.
Hello, friends and enemies.
I just want to say that you're giving me a guff because it was me that really pushed, and it's completely. I deserve it.
See, no, I'm re-aiming the guns of Navarone out to the enemies and any friends that are enjoying the Schadenfreude of my life.
That is
so.
Nice.
The guns of Navarone were 100% pointed at you, and then we talked, and I'm like, no. I just
love that you're pointing your guns at me, and I'm sitting here petting your dog as if I was Dr. Evil petting his cat.
Yeah.
Mr. Wiggles or Biggles?
Mr. Biggles.
Mr. Biggles. But yeah, so it's going to be an interesting episode, folks, because it's got some positive and it's got a whole bunch of negative. But you know what? The negative tends to bring out the best in us.
Yes.
So we are going to have a really rollicking episode. So once again, episode 142. It means there are 141 previous episodes of Pure Gold. So please go back and listen to our back catalog, especially if you're just listening to us for the first time. We are very opinionated, and a lot of times, heck, I'm going to say it most of the times, our opinions are 100% correct. You can find us at nerdpodgen.com. Go there. There are links to pretty much everything about us except for Apple Podcasts because it's almost impossible to put a link up for them. But there's a link to Spotify, a link to YouTube. There's a link to Al's,
JudsomStudios.work.
JudsomStudios.work at the
Bronx Division.
Bronx Division, that's right. And there's, little blurbs about us, kind of getting to know, see little things we do. But then please go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Once again, youtube.com, NerdPod Generations. Make sure you subscribe to either the podcast or the YouTube channel. Leave us feedback, leave us likes, dislikes, whatever. Just subscribe and become part of our family. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about, though. What's that?
One big family.
One big happy family that loves nerdom.
This is definitely not a family reunion where you go and you're like, God, there's like 6 topics I don't want to bring up. And then your uncle's like, so how do you feel about Y and Z?
That's what we do. And then we talk about Spider-Man Homecoming sometimes. All right, so we started every show, and we have a packed show today. We started every show, though, with what I've been watching, playing, reading.
We actually have 3 topics, which we haven't had in a while.
I know, and it's unfortunate.
We've been on such a positivity kick.
We're going to nail that show this week. I am going to start super positive, though, because I've been dying to talk about this.
Let's spend the last few gill of positivity that we have.
Thank you.
All my Final Fantasy fans.
My last positivity thing will link our 2 Watch Play Reads, because we will talk about a certain show we're both excited about. But this one, I'm very happy to announce Doctor Who's back on the right track.
You like the new episodes?
So I haven't watched the one that just came out. My wife and I watched 3, 4, and 5. Episode 6 just came out. We have not watched it yet, but 3, 4, and 5. Especially 3, which I had mentioned. I was kind of excited because Stephen Moffat wrote it. Holy crap, was it amazing. And it was classic Doctor Who. It got away from any new stuff they're trying to push. It was the Doctor and Ruby land on a planet. Ruby is his new companion. It's a war planet. I love, once again, the people who are fighting in the war are clergy. They love that Doctor. And I love that because it is such an allegory, and I love it.
No one likes to start a war like the church.
No, not at all. And so you have that in this, and then the show is also based around them showing negativity towards like the industrial war complex, which is awesome.
Yeah,
like they do it in a really intelligent way. But it's a tense episode. It only has a few people in it. It's not a ton of people. It takes place in really one area. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Like truly, my wife, when we were done, we're like, holy shit. Like, that felt like Doctor Who. Yeah. It was so good.
That's good to hear.
Unbelievable. So it's called Boom, was that one.
It's always the one-word titles with Moffat.
Yeah.
He always has the one-word title. I guess Don't Blink is technically 2 words, but
that's still...
It's one sentiment.
It's so goddamn good. And then we go on to 73 Yards, which is a really good episode that doesn't quite stick the landing. It's one that really revolves around Ruby, and the Doctor kind of disappears in the beginning of it.
Okay.
And it's a really interesting story, and it's kind of got like horror elements. and it's an interesting like layout, and it takes like you over decades, but then it kind of has a very confusing ending that doesn't really explain a lot. So it's like I still give it high marks because it was a very interesting, unique story. But it just didn't really stick the landing. Yeah. So like it's a where the last episode would be a solid A for me. This one is a solid B that easily could have been an A if they would have just tied a little more of the ending together. Like I can kind of get what they were doing.
Yeah.
But I was a little disappointed by the ending.
Yeah.
Then we rolled into Dot and Bubble. Holy shit. This is a great episode.
That's good.
Do you remember, it was one of the first episodes with the Weeping Angels. The one where the doctor's not actually in it. He's on the TV.
This is Don't Blink.
This is the same type of thing, but there's this bubbled society, and it's locked down, and the Doctor and Ruby are on the outside of it, and they can't get in, but they know there's something wrong. And everyone in this society, the Dot and Bubble is, they have this little dot that they say, dot up, it goes in the air and bubble, and it puts like a social media bubble around their head. Oh. And they have all of their friends in front of them, and like when they walk, they never put when they're awake, they never put the bubble down. And when they walk, a directional tells them where to go.
Oh.
And there are these creatures that come to the planet, and they start eating people. Mm-hmm. But since they can't see outside the bubble, they don't know anything's going on around them, and no one wants to put their bubble down. But all of a sudden, their friends start like going offline on their thing.
Yeah.
And it has one of the most shocking moments I've seen in a Doctor Who, where one of the characters that you're kind of, at first you hate her guts, and then you're kind of rooting for her, she does something where you're like, oh, I want her dead so bad. Like, I looked at Audrey, I'm like, holy shit. She's like, I know.
She's got to die now.
Did she just do this?
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. Like, I don't want to give away what it is, but you're like, God damn.
Wow.
And it also kind of has the same thing with the last one, where you kind of get an explanation for why things turn out in the episode, why things happen throughout the episode, but it's not as cut and dry as you would kind of like it to be.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of gray area where you're trying to figure out, okay, then how exactly did this come about?
Yeah.
But the episode itself was very much a classic creature Doctor Who. It was really good. It was very entertaining. And it kind of also deals with racism a little bit.
Okay.
This is the first time that the Doctor has like a group of people that shun him because he's black. They're like, oh, we got what we needed out of you, but now that we think we don't need you anymore, you just are not even allowed to be near us. And like his reaction to, he's so frustrated because all he wants to do is save them, but their ignorance is keeping that from happening. And his frustration, like, I think the one doctor of this new Doctor, the one little thing about him that I'm starting to get used to is when he gets frustrated or scared or angry, he actually tears up and cries.
That's good.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But it kind of played, I don't know, it almost felt pigeonholed in some episodes, but at the end, when he's so frustrated, tears are streaming down his face, you're like, oh, that's heavy.
Yeah. So
it was like, that one, I'm even though it doesn't necessarily tie things together like the last one, the same issue I have with the last one, I still give this one an A, because you're going to watch it and be like, fuck. And once again, when the thing happens, you're going to be like, God damn, I want her so dead. Like, please die right now because it's so bad. But it was so good. Like, after we watched these 3 episodes, it made the first 3, and I'm including the Christmas episode and then the first 2 of the new season.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense that those existed.
Because they haven't gone back to why the Doctor is fearful of things. And
it didn't go back to that, but it's like, it also, those first three really didn't feel like Doctor Who, or they were just so poorly done that even if you felt a little like it was the Doctor, it's like, yeah, but this is just a terrible, like the Space Babies and the musical episode, which had, it was all right, but it was still, it was kind of dumb. And these three, like the last two that I talked about, were written by Russell T Davies. So it's like, were you just like holding it in until after Moffat, and then you saw Moffat's and you're like, fuck, I better step it up, because they got so much better after Moffat's.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, the same guy wrote the last three. So it's like, or actually he also wrote all the David Tennant ones, which were still okay. Not great, but they were okay.
I thought you meant the David Tennant seasons.
No.
I was
the two David Tennant.
You back off that high horse right now.
No, David Tennant seasons are best. Man, and the coming attraction I saw for Rogue, which is the one that came out yesterday, it seems also very classic Doctor Who, because like they even say in the trailer, they land in like a Bridgerton type situation. And she's like, oh, this is like Bridgerton. And she says it. And then these aristocrats walk in and they're huge bird people. And I'm like, oh, that's so Doctor Who. So now I can't wait to watch that episode.
Yeah.
Especially now that I'm like back into it.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how happy we are, my wife and I, because like we are so massive into Doctor Who. And we were so let down by the Jodie Whittaker seasons, as much as we still watched every one of them. We were so let down by kind of how they were changing things. And then we were so let down by the beginning of this that we were craving good Doctor Who.
Yeah.
We finally fucking got it.
Yeah.
And it was just such... The joy we felt with the release of Joy was so great.
And that's the thing, is that this is what I kept on finding myself repeating this morning as we were watching The Acolyte. So we're covering The Acolyte and Madam Web. It's a hell of a show, kids. Yeah. While I was watching The Acolyte this morning, I just kept on saying to Kelly, I want this to be good. I want this to succeed. I'm so tired of wanting.
Yes.
I want these fuckers to just get it done. Make the good things so I can be excited for you, because I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
The comparison I made was watching if like the Bills came out and they made spectacular catches, but they were always out of bounds. And the receivers were like, but we're trying our best. Why aren't people getting excited about how good we look? Yeah. Okay. No, I want it to work.
Yeah.
It needs to be in bounds. There's rules and regulations to this shit.
Yeah,
it has to be in bounds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, I want something to be good. I am tired of wanting them to get there. I want them to just get there.
It was such a release and a relief. To, just like you're saying, just to know that, oh my God.
Yeah.
Something I love was actually done properly. And you know what? I'll be honest, and I'm kind of disappointed because I can't remember if they said this next season Ruby, who's the companion, isn't in it, or if she's splitting time with another companion.
They mentioned that they're bringing on another companion. I do remember that.
I just can't remember if they're like swapping around or not. Because she has become so good as a companion, because they're at first they kind of wrote her as this, I don't want to say ditzy, but she's just pretty blonde, kind of like early Rose.
I was going to say, it sounds like Rose.
But in these last few episodes, she really has been like the calming force and as smart as the Doctor in a lot of situations. And I love that. She is so great in this show.
Yeah.
And so I really want to see more. Like I'm really excited to see the rest of the season, but after this, I still kind of really want to see more of her, because I was kind of let down by Clara. And even though I liked the first three companions of the Jodie Whittaker era, when the grandpa and I can't remember their names, when the grandpa and his grandson left, and it was just Yaz, and then they brought on it was all right, but it's like, I liked the dynamic of the three of them, like Yaz and the other two in the beginning. But like, I've been kind of let down by companions lately. And then, because even like the end of Capaldi, his companions were okay, but they weren't spectacular.
Yeah.
And she's nailing it. She's so fucking good. And I really want to see her as a companion for at least a couple seasons.
Yeah. Give her a chance to be like a Karen Gillan.
Yeah, like an Amy Pond. Oh, absolutely.
Because like that's one of the things about the David Tennant seasons is I love all three. Well, no. I really like Martha and Donna.
Yes, I agree.
Don't care for Rose and Mickey. one of the things I find frustrating is that we didn't get to spend more time with Martha. Because Martha, as much as I love Donna, and I do love Donna, I feel like Martha gets like the short shift on a lot of things.
Yeah. Martha's awesome.
Martha's amazing.
So great.
And I just love every moment where the doctor comes in and says, I'm the doctor. And Martha says, that's true, but I'm an actual doctor.
An actual doctor.
And it's just like, I love that dynamic. Yeah. And I love the performance and everything that goes into it. And then they turn her into this soldier. And then
her Mickey.
Her punishment is that she has to be with Mickey for the rest of her life. And I'm like, God damn it. That sucks, like, man.
Like a lot of people I know love Rose. And, you know, I've
never liked Rose.
I have minimal affection for Rose. But the difference, like, I'll take what Rose and David Tennant compared to Amy Pond and Matt Smith. What I loved about Amy Pond and Matt Smith, David Tennant and Rose, there was always, they're going to hook up because they both want each other.
Yeah.
Amy Pond and Matt Smith, she wanted him, and he was so terrified and did not want to reciprocate.
I love that scene where he brings her home after like 2 or 3 adventures. And he takes her up to her room, and he's like, "Oh,
and the wedding dress is there.
Look at all this stuff." And then she's like, "We're gonna have sex," and he's like, "Oh, no, we are not going to have sex. I don't know where you got this idea. That is not happening."
That was my favorite. It was so great because he was so awkward about it. It was the best.
Just him rolling over the bed and practically running away. It was just so good.
And that's the thing. The thing I think it's refreshing about this is, since the fact that the actor who plays the doctor is gay in real life, they never try to pull off like there's this pseudo relationship. No, they are literally companions, like the word companions. They are friends. They love each other, but there's no sexual tension. And I love that because I always kind of hated that. Like, there's always this, I think he really likes her, and I think they really... It's like, no, dude, like, that's kind of what I liked about Capaldi. Like, she was repulsed by him.
Yeah.
And he was kind of repulsed by her, and that was awesome, because it's like, okay, because I was so tired of the Tennant stuff, and then even, you know, the Amy and Rory stuff, as much as I love those two, I was kind of getting tired of that, and it's like, I just need, like, I want to watch a Doctor Who where there's no... Hey, someone's gonna fuck in this episode, and there's none of that.
I got tired of it when it became about their divorce, and I was like, "Don't make the pawns get divorced. Come on, don't do this to me."
And then she's like a weird supermodel.
She's a model. Well, she's Mary Jane Watson.
Yeah, she really was.
This is the thing. She's Mary Jane Watson.
She was perfect.
And oh god, here's a reference for all of our children listening. So you don't want a Sam and Diane.
Yes, I don't want a Sam and Diane. I want a Sam and Rhea Perlman. What's her name? Carla. I want a Sam and Carla. They will never have any kind of relations with one another, but they love each other and they make fun of each other. And that's what I want. Yeah. And it works so well. Like, I can't wait for you guys to catch up on some of these episodes because, man, these last 3 were so fucking good.
What's the benchmark on Sam and Diane? 25? You think anybody 25 and younger is not going to get that reference?
Oh, much older than that.
You think so?
Because you got to think, that show ended...
I don't even want to say what show it is. I don't even want to say what show it is. I want to make our fans go out and find out what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, because, like, they'll hear that Woody Harrelson was, like, his first thing. They're like, who the hell's Woody Harrelson? I bet some people still... until you say he's Haymitch from...
or Cletus Cassidy.
Or Cletus Cassidy. We're like, oh, yeah,
that guy.
But,
what's his name? Tallahassee.
Oh, yeah, Zombieland. That's right. Yeah. So that's one thing. And then, you know, so Doctor Who, love it. Please go start watching it. Once again, make it through the early episodes to kind of get your feet wet on the whole new Doctor companion relationship and get to know these characters a little bit, and then they really amp it up.
It does take some time. I do remember watching the Matt Smith episode, and as much as I loved that first episode, when he gets really mad at Amy, it was kind of a turnoff for me. I was like, but like, you brought her into this situation. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't even remember what she did. Yeah. And he's just so mad at her. And I'm like, let's slow down just a minute. And we get there. You know, that's the great thing about Matt Smith is that we do get there.
Well, like, I remember the second episode of theirs is fucking spectacular. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that didn't
Well, that's long. What I'm saying is that it's still a great episode. The whale episode is still great, but that moment that he gets so mad that he's like, I never should have brought you. I can't trust you. You suck. And I'm like, whoa, let's take it down like 3 notches here, man.
It's the War Doctor all over again.
Yeah.
So rolling into our bridge between us.
Yes.
Holy shit, I wanted to cry this week because there was the State of Play, which is now, it used to be just video games, and now they're talking about shows and movies and all that, and like that's starting to take over. But luckily because of that, we learned that October 3rd, we are getting Season 3 of The Legend of Vox Machina.
I can't believe it's already coming out. I'm shocked.
Oh my god, I was so happy.
Very frankly shocked. To the point where I'm a little worried. When you find out that an animated thing is coming out faster than you thought, the first thought that I have is, oh, great. And then the second thought I have is, but it's still going to be the same quality, right?
Well, like,
I'm not saying I'm against
not too worried.
I'm happy that it's coming out, and the opener looks fucking bomb, right?
Dude,
I'm so happy about
so
this.
Good.
And it shows us just how far we've come as an audience watching these characters and all these other elements of the show, you know, just how different things have become, while also giving a nice overview of what's going on with the characters and giving us a little peek into the future with what's going on with Pike. So there's a lot of really cool stuff here. I'm really happy about it. I'm just worried because when you rush out stuff, that changes the dynamic of the thing. And so I don't know if they rushed it out. But everything I've ever heard from anybody in animation is this is going to take time.
The thing I'm hopeful for is that this is just one of those things that they had a bunch of storylines for different seasons and that they never stopped animating.
That's what I wondered.
Like they just continuously roll because, I mean, it's been a solid year since the last season, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I want to say the last season came out
I want to say spring
earlier in the year. Yeah. So it'll be like a year and a half. So my hope is they just had the storylines and they just had to do the animation.
That's what I think. Especially since this is all based on Critical Role. Yeah. And I think the Vox Machina, they're on campaign like 4 or 5 at this point. So this story is, you know, they already know. This isn't a Game of Thrones situation where they have to write the story. They know what's going on.
And it's so passionate. Like you can tell they're so passionate about this that I really can't imagine them screwing this up.
I really hope not.
I can't imagine.
But every once in a while something comes along. The real damage of Homecoming is understanding that the things you love can be awful. And what started with Spider-Man 3, where I saw the trailer and I was like, this is going to be amazing. And then I watched and I was like, this isn't too bad. And then I watched it a second time. I was like, this is pretty bad. And then
emo Peter.
I watched I still remember watching Kimmel, and they had the trailer for Homecoming drop, and I was like, oh no. And then I watched the movie, and I was like, God fucking damn it, are you fucking serious? And then we have 3.5 other movies come out in that franchise, and I'm just sitting here like, man, I want this to be good. I'm worried about committing.
The thing they have going for them, opposed to like Homecoming and all that, Amazon has proven one thing: they will let you do whatever the fuck you want. And if you don't believe that, watch The Boys.
Yeah,
they will let you do whatever the fuck you want, and they will leave their hands off as long as it's success or it's Rings of Powers, which is terrible. But obviously, somebody made that nightmare.
I mean, they're spending enough money that the sunk cost value is enough that they're going to keep on making Rings of Power in the hopes that they can make back some of their money.
I mean, they own the property now, so they got to fucking do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this. I really think that it's just gonna like you said, that opening.
It's so
that
good.
Trailer's
it grabs you right by the lapels and shakes you. Like it's so good. I'm so excited about it, and I desperately want it to be good because I love these characters. I love that these voice performers have been given this great platform to introduce us all to them in case you don't have the patience for a long play. Which, like, for me, Critical Role versus D20 is the way that the shows are structured is different. And I just find D20 more accessible than Critical Role. So I really appreciate having this. I'm looking forward desperately to the Mighty Nine show because all I've ever heard from all my D&D friends is that Mighty Nine is even better than Vox Machina. And so I really want this to be good. I really am excited to see it. I just have learned to always keep up one level of armor. You don't take off all your plot armor. You leave on one little like vest of something just in case.
No, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
I want this to be good, man. I want it to be good.
I believe it will.
So I wanted to touch on a handful of things really quick.
Okay.
Alien Romulus had a new trailer drop.
Dude, they look so good!
I want more plot explained, but this, because
The tone, though.
the tone looks perfect.
Fuck.
The tone looks perfect.
That looks terrifying.
But I'm just a little wondering of what the plot is actually going to be. There seems to be some kind of religious element to it, which sounds about right. There's a lot of face huggers. It seems like face huggers are going to be the big part of the plot. But then my question becomes, what happens when the face huggers do their thing? Because usually there's another whole thing after that. That's kind of the bigger problem. Yeah. But I love like the scanner that they have so they can see inside and everything.
That was so cool.
And it's just, I'm sitting here, I'm like, I really want this, again, I really want this to be good because I liked Covenant enough, but I didn't like it so much that I've like bought it and watched it again. Yeah. But in comparison to Prometheus, I liked it more than Prometheus. Prometheus is just like, it's such a mixed bag. Yeah. It's such a mixed bag of like, for everything, for every Idris Elba and Charlize Theron, there's a Guy Pearce and a
Danny McBride.
He's in Covenant. But Noomi Rapace and like just all these things and the whole fucking thing with David. David better not be in this fucking movie because that is such a distraction.
No, I don't think
it gets so far off of what we are trying to accomplish. I don't even know what the fuck that was about.
And it's like, I think the big problem with Prometheus is he was trying to make an alien movie without making an alien movie. Yeah. And it's like, you should have just leaned into it.
You should have just, or have I would accept that this God Society existed but was felled by their own hubris by xenomorphs. Yes. I would have accepted that, but it turned into this whole like, well, now David is going to go find the creator of his creators and he's going to go kill them in honor of his creators. None of it makes any sense. And it's
like you already made it that the, what were they called again?
I don't even
engineers,
remember. Yeah.
Right? The engineers are creators, but why wouldn't you make them the creator of the xenomorph we know now and it kills their planet?
And that's why they're so hard to kill, is because they're born of gods.
Exactly. Instead of this rogue fucking android that decides to just, I'm going to make it. Yeah. And then they turn into this world-ending thing. It's like, no, dude.
It gets so complicated and up its own ass. Yeah, and it gets too far. So I want this to be good. The last few Alien movies, for whatever they're called, I have a little hesitancy over, but I want this to be good. I think this can be good. I like the idea of going back to space. Let's go back to basics. Let's go back to pre-Aliens. Let's just get the basic premise of Alien right.
And what very similar franchise just did this recently?
RoboCop?
Prey.
Oh, Prey, yes.
Went back to basics.
Go back to basics.
Basic on Earth. There's alien coming down.
Alien in a jungle scenario with a hunter who is extremely good at what they do. Who's gonna win?
Limit the special effects.
Yes.
Limit seeing the alien.
Yes.
Just make it more about the human and the struggle and the tension, and
have the special effects be saved for things like being able to see the chest cavity.
Yes.
So that is just enhanced even more.
Exactly.
Of like all of the feelings that you have about a face hugger, but now you can see it happening. Yeah. And it's like, no, that was the one thing, was that you didn't want to see it happening. You saw the after effect and you were like, God, that's awful. The idea of being able to see this from Inception. It's like, oh. So that looks cool. I don't know if you watched this, Tales of the Ninja Turtles. They're coming out with an animated series on Paramount.
I've seen, because when my son and I watched the Knuckles show, they had a bunch of advertisements for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm not
it's based
sold
on
the
movie.
animation, really.
I'm not sold on the premise.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm not sold on is the premise. The animation I'm good with. The premise I'm a little off and on.
The animation reminds me of the DuckTales reboot.
Yeah,
that David Tennant voice.
Yeah,
Scrooge
well,
McDuck,
this is what all mainstream animation looks like
yeah.
now, is like this kind of pseudo flash animation that's not great, but it's super cheap.
Yeah.
And so they make a ton of shit for it, and it's a frustration for a lot of people I know. But I don't mind this. I think it's an interesting premise to have a new show based on this series, or based on this movie. I just don't know if we need another story about what happens when the turtles are separated.
Yes.
I just don't know that that's like, again, this is, The problem is that you've had 30 years of animated series based on the Turtles, so it's hard to... They've gone to the future. They've gone to the past. They've gone to Battle World. They've gone to fucking Mortal Kombat Battle World.
Yeah.
They've gone to the sewers of New York. They've gone to space. They've gone to alternate dimensions. They've gone to Earth Prime. Like, they've done all this shit already. So what's there left to do?
Yeah.
So I guess that's the question is, if you really like the style of the movie, that's what you're in for.
And I've never liked the dividing up the Turtles. Like,
No.
when you send Raph off because he's being...
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Within the
but,
context of the story.
like, the other two wouldn't leave Leonardo.
Well, and like the one that I saw that I was like, this is interesting. This is an interesting interpretation, is the TMNT, the animated movie that has Chris Evans and Sarah Michelle Gellar.
It was from the
mid-2000s,
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart, Lawrence Fishburne, a few other people. The beginning of that movie is premised on Leo has been sent to go and do a mission in South America to kind of learn and to become a full leader. And while he's gone, what happens to the other three without a leader? And so Raph goes off and becomes a vigilante. Mikey, for some reason, decides to become a party clown. And Donnie is doing over-the-phone IT.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's one of those things where they present and you're like, okay, no, it's not that I can't see this. I can 100% see this. I just don't understand the premise of why.
Yeah.
If you have a job, it's to have money. There's no other reason to have a job except to get money. Why do the Turtles need money? They've never needed money before. So,
And like, the biggest complaint with the sequels to Star Wars is you never had Luke, Han, and Leia together in the same scene, because that's what people want, because what made those movies special is the interaction between those three. And what makes the Turtles special is they're different personalities together, not separate.
And that's one of the things I do like about that animated movie, is that premise is kind of taken out immediately. Like, that's the opening thing is like, this is where they are, and now Leo comes back like in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and now we have to kind of reconfigure the team and get Raph to kind of come back off the ledge and all these other things, both literally and metaphorically. So I want this to work. I'm so tired of saying that. I'm interested in seeing this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to be committed to watching it, because I don't really love the premise of the show. I just, again, the all mutants must die thing is just like,
Well,
okay.
and like, I would love to see what the age demographic is for people who watch the Turtle properties nowadays.
Yeah.
Because my guess, just going off of my son and his friends who could give two shits, and they're 9 about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, my guess is it's older.
They have to make the original.
That's
the last thing they have to do. The last thing they have to do is lean all the way in and make a PG-13. It doesn't have to be full R, but you could go R, but at least a hard PG-13 version of the Turtles. Make it in black and white where people die. And it's a big deal, because I know the Shredder dies and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And tossed in the back of a garbage truck and then murdered by Casey Jones, except that he lives, so it's not murder.
It's not murder.
But
no, I agree with you. It's like, that's their final
That's the last place to go. They don't have anywhere else to go.
That's their clientele now.
And
older people.
When I was saying things that they've done that in the show, where there's a Ninja Turtle show where I think it's from the same era as the movie we were just talking about, mid-2000s, early to mid-2000s. And it's a very okay show. It's not amazing, but it's pretty decent. It's a little slow. My big thing is that it's like a Naruto-paced show where it's just like, okay, all right, come on, let's go. What are we doing? As I think the finale of the series, there's a spin-off, but as the finale to the core series, they have to do an interdimensional thing with the Turtles from '89, and the Shredders are trying to destroy the Turtles, and they end up at Earth Prime, and Earth Prime is the original comic book with the original animation and style. All the guys are wearing red bands. Like, it's straight out of the original without necessarily the full tone of the original.
I got you.
But it's a solid homage to the original. And it's like, okay, so you can do this. You do have this in your quiver. I want you to do it. I want you
and
to go
the
there.
original creators want it bad too. I've seen that documentary where they're like, we would really like to see what we created.
Like, that's the thing, is that it's so rarely have we ever had a property that has had so many interpretations and adaptations, and none of them have been of the original work.
No, it's so deviated.
They've all been of mirror images of the original work. But none of them have been the original.
Well, and it's just because the stupid executives that own these properties now, they're like, well, no adult wants to watch something about 4 turtles. It's like, no, we actually do.
We really do.
We really fucking do.
Are you dumb? We
it's like,
definitely do.
You probably still think video games are for kids too, don't you?
Animation is only for children.
Okay, yeah.
I got news for you, son.
Yeah, DC has something to say about that. Apocalypse War. Go watch that.
Oh, God. It's... Oh, my God. When you get to the end of Apocalypse War and we run into Wonder Woman again.
Oh, my God.
Wonder Woman and Mira, I'm just like, oh, my... And Starfire.
Yeah.
Just like, oh my
it's a different world,
God,
man.
this is insane.
Yeah.
So
good.
Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earth Part 2 coming to a NerdPod Generation episode near you soon.
Maybe next week.
Anyway, Wallace and Gromit has a new short that's coming out. I'm hopeful because they're bringing back the Penguin. I'm also scared because they're bringing back the Penguin. So I did want to touch on, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Yes.
And I went back and I fixed the settings.
Okay.
So now the auto aim is working and it doesn't have the same issues that I had.
Okay.
As case in point, the thing that I was stuck on that was just like a little side quest I did in maybe 20 seconds with the auto aim on, and it was just like, this is where the problem has been.
Gotcha.
Playing through it, it's really, really fun.
Nice.
I really like it for a lot of reasons. One, while it is a little slow and clunky, you can go back and get stuff that you missed.
Okay.
And it does automatically show up in your current game.
Awesome.
So I wish that you could skip cutscenes and that kind of stuff and dialogue you don't need to listen to when you're trying to replay, so you can go and get costumes or pick up extra parts, but whatever, it's fine. The fact that they have driven this line that's right in between the movies and the comics. It's so fascinating to me. As we're going through, you have some stuff that you recognize, right? So you have Peter Quill listening to 80s rock, right?
Okay.
And he's listening to hair metal. There's a hair metal band called Star-Lord.
nice.
That's his favorite band.
Nice.
And but there's all this 80s classic rock and pop music always playing on the ship. You can go through and just pick what song you want to play.
Okay.
We have discussions with Star-Lord's father. Okay. All right.
Okay.
And it's Jason of Spartax. We got there, folks. We did it. It took a while, but we got there. And he has the guns, but the guns are element guns like they're supposed to be, where they shoot ice and fire and other things, not just lasers. Okay? And he is the son of the king of Spartax. And his dad had to leave, and that's why he's not here anymore. It's not ego. He's not born of Celestials. He's born of an ancient race, like the elves, but he is not a god, okay, or a demigod, as they made him in the Marvel canon. And he doesn't go and play catch with his dad.
Oh, God, don't bring that up.
And his dad doesn't turn into fucking Hasselhoff. Just so many dumb things. You have Drax. Drax is so close to the original character that James Gunn brought to us.
Okay.
Now, he's not exactly like the comic books. The comic books, he's a little bit gruffer, a little bit meaner. But it is that line of he takes everything literally. He doesn't understand a lot of customs and things.
Okay.
As a result. So when people are talking, colorfully, he is kind of like, there's that joke of like, no, that's not true. We're doing this. And it's like, I think, there's a line about like, this thing could power the sun. And he's like, that's impossible. Nothing could power the sun. And it's like that kind of thing of just like, he's taking it very seriously. But there's this really deep pathos to Drax as a character.
Interesting.
Where he is clearly thinking all the time. And he is put in charge of things.
Okay.
There's a doubt that he'll be able to accomplish them. But when it's shown that he has the best opportunity to handle a situation, the reins are given over to Drax. And he's not just dumb. He's not just slowly eating nuts because he's invisible if he slowly eats nuts. And he's not just some brute dumbass who doesn't understand anything, where he's just a child.
Yeah.
He has real deep regret for the loss of his family that we never talk about after Guardians 1. That never comes up. We hear about how he killed Thanos, and he's like, I don't think I killed him. I think I got as close to killing him as you can. I think he's still out there. He likes to go, they go to nowhere, and nowhere is the actual edge of the known universe, which is what it's supposed to be. So there's a rift on the other side of nowhere because you don't know where it goes. And so Drax just goes and stares at the rift and thinks about his family and what he's done with his life and where he's been and where he's going and what he wants to accomplish. And it's just like, where was this during the Christmas special?
Yeah.
Where's this
Seriously.
shit been? Where's this shit been? And, you know, Rocket is still Rocket. Groot is still Groot. Gamora is still Gamora. Mantis is this prophetic person who goes around, and when she meets you, she can kind of read your past, present, and future all at once. And so she'll tell you something, and it's disarming and weird, and only you know what it means.
Wait, does she show her mean face?
No, she doesn't have a mean face because she actually is a three-dimensional character.
No, that doesn't exist.
Who
in
at
Marvel?
some point saved Gamora.
There is no female character in Marvel in modern Marvel that's the case.
She has an entourage that are constantly like a religious entourage that are like, you need to go here, you need to do this. And she's like, no, I don't. She's like an elven oracle where everybody is trying to point her in a direction. And she's like, no. I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. I know where I'm going.
That's so awesome.
And she could definitely handle herself in a fight if she had to.
Nice.
And it's just she has green skin. It's so much closer to everything that we should have seen in the movies. And it's just, now that I've gotten the flow of the game, there are still elements of it that I do regret. I still think the game would be more fun if you could play as each individual Guardian.
Yeah, that still doesn't make sense to me.
I think that there's a lot of grinding in this game. I think that there's the pacing on it needs to be tweaked and enhanced a little bit. But the fact that we're talking about the Nova and the World Mind, that's huge. That's so enormous. I can't get over that. That's so cool. Like, I was excited when you brought up Richard Rider, but then you bring up World Mind, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Somebody did their research, man. It's not just like, oh, the badoon, and we're just like references. No, like World Mind, the whole thing, where it's the supercomputer. It's basically very similar to Supreme or the Supreme Intelligence, but for the Nova. So it's just this big computer that enhances the powers of everybody. So take Supremor and the Guardians from Oa, the Green Lantern Guardians. Smash them together. That's World Mind. It's one entity made up of millions that bestows power on people in order for them to do good and justice and protect others. So when the Universal Church of Truth corrupts the World Mind and starts turning Nova into just these roving bands of killers, it's a problem. And that's kind of what the plot is growing into. And it's like, okay, we're getting there. We're getting somewhere. And it's interesting and fascinating. And the Blood Brothers are here. Who thought they were going to show up? I never thought that was going to be a thing. Cosmo is here. We're doing the whole thing with Nowhere. Everything about this is thrilling and exciting. And I'm much happier now that the auto aim is on.
Nice.
Because I can actually play the fucking game.
You can actually shoot something.
But it's really fun. It's a fun game. And more than anything, it's scratching an itch that I had forgotten I needed scratched. You know, it's one of those things where for so long now, when Guardians came out in 2014, I didn't know shit about it. So I started reading comics, and I was like, oh, look at all this cool stuff. Look at all this cool stuff. And then the Guardians 2 came out, and I was like, uh-oh. And then Guardians, the Christmas special came out, and I was like, we're dead. We're dead in the water. And then Guardians 3 came out, and I was like, this doesn't make us not dead in the water, guys. When, you remember Layla from Guardians 3, the otter with the... Yeah, okay, so she's not a weird otter with metal arms. She's just an otter.
Okay.
But she has a tragic backstory that Rocket tells us that's actually gut-wrenching to hear. And you're just like, man, where was this the entire time? Because every time we went and talked about Half-World in Guardians 3, it was as a joke. None of this was serious. That's why you had a walrus named Teefs. Now, I'm not saying Walrus is a better name, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, and especially right now, for the Xbox, the standard edition on Amazon is $15. And actually it's more for PlayStation 4, but PlayStation 5, more for that too. It's $29. But so if you got an Xbox, it's only $15.
Yeah. And it is a really good interpretation of the Guardians. I'm now hopeful that we might get like a Faye We might get a Moondragon. It's not impossible. Moondragon is the daughter of Drax. So I want to know what's going on with Heather Douglas.
I mean,
wanna know
that
where
would be
is.
if they were. I think if you got a sequel to the game, but I don't know if it sold well enough that they're going to make a second.
Well, so this game seems long and winding as I go through it, and it seems long because I'm taking my time. I'm trying to find everything on my first run through, but it's also just in terms of like the pacing of the game seems a little long. There's a lot of walking in corridors and that kind of shit. Even when you're trying to go as quickly as possible through the game, it still isn't like the fastest paced game. So I'm really curious if we're going to get further, reveals, because I didn't think we were going to get Mantis, and then Mantis showed up. I didn't know if we were going to get Cosmo, and Cosmo showed up with his puppies. And you're like, all right, we got shit, guys. It's here, and we're doing it. Do I need Bug? I'm not saying I need Bug. Do I need the guy? I found a guy in a weird Nova prison that I don't know who he is, but he's a Terran. Is that Jack Flag? I don't know, but now I'm curious. Now I gotta know. Now I want to go and find out.
I got you.
So,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I do like when we can add video games. We have not added enough video games into
the watch play, the play part of watch play read.
Which I am happy to say will change shortly because, oh God, one of my favorite games ever is coming back out in the middle of July. I already have it pre-ordered. Pre-order went in this week for NCAA football. Which,
really? It's
for
back?
those of you, it's back.
Now that
the players are getting paid.
They've settled their various lawsuits.
Yes. And let me tell anyone, this game was so great, and Madden was taking such a hit because of the college football game that the last year they had the college football game, I remember, because it always comes out a month before Madden. When Madden was coming out, GameStop had a thing saying they would give you, I think, $50 towards Madden if you traded in the college football game, because no one was pre-ordering Madden because college football game was 1,000 times better, and I hope it's the same.
I've never played the NCAA games,
dude,
so I've only ever played Madden.
It's night and day difference.
This is my thing, is that Madden, the reason I haven't played Madden in almost 10 years now, the last Madden I got had Odell Beckham Jr. on it after his rookie season.
Oh,
that's how long ago it's been.
Yeah, that's been a while.
So I haven't done it because they got rid of a lot of the things I love.
Yeah.
The create a team, the ability to build your own roster. You can still make players, but it's kind of wonky now. They haven't updated it at all, and you're like, this is something that should have been updated a long time ago. And it's really the create a team thing. I'm still butthurt.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, because I remember the last college football game, mind you, this has been quite a long time since the last. I think it was working at Chili's back then, so it's been it's been over a decade. They had it where you could go online to a website, create your college from everything from the music to the uniforms to where it is, and then upload it into the game. I don't know if that's something that's going to be, because this game is only going to be on next-gen systems, mainly because I remember when I first played it, it's insane. They have every college with their fight songs, with their colors, their stadium, everything.
Now,
so we're hundreds.
This is with the caveat that EA doesn't screw the pooch.
I don't think if they screw the pooch on this, they're completely dead to me. Because this was their home run, and the way it was a home run is they didn't put in every song as a hip hop song and all. And now, mind you, I'm not saying anything negative for hip hop fans. I just hate hip hop music, and the old Madden would give you a variety of music, including the old NFL Films music. Doesn't even have that anymore.
No, that's
it's
insane.
like I never have the sound on, but when I played the college football game and they have the full band fight songs and all that, and you hear the crowd doing chants, dude, totally get you in the game. And if they screw that up, I'm gonna be so pissed. Because it was such just the experience, and you have all the mascots, and they used to have mascot games where you could play as all the mascots. It was so great. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I want to say it's July 14th or something. I know it's middle of July.
That sounds right, because the college football season usually starts around early to mid-August.
Yeah, kind of around that. It's always a little bit before the pros, but man, I can't wait. I can't, and I will be fully reviewing that when it comes out.
I bet.
Because if it's good. The only negative is people like me who only got Madden just because I really wanted to play a football game will never buy Madden again.
Well, I think that that's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah.
I think that if you had a NFL Streets like we used to have, or an NFL Blitz, or any of those other, even the quarterback club, and what was the other one?
Well, 2K was the best. 2K5 is still one of my favorite football games ever.
Yeah.
And it was $20 when it came out to really stick it to Madden, and it blew it away because of that. It was so good.
They always allowed themselves to have fun.
Yeah.
Madden, because John Madden had a very specific vision, and I can deeply appreciate Captain Turducken's vision. I'm saying that as a joke. I actually do deeply respect John Madden.
Yes.
You can tell because I'm joking about him. If I didn't, I would just be calling him derisive things, like Captain Turducken.
I like that name.
But anyway, he wanted it to be as realistic as possible.
Yes.
To the point where they would go in between seasons and tinker with the likelihood of various things happening depending on the statistics from the season before, which is why, for no reason, if you throw a pass anywhere over the middle, you'll be intercepted in
By a middle linebacker.
most Madden games. It's
so
insane.
infuriating.
It doesn't happen nearly that much in real NFL, but if you play Madden, you cannot go over the middle at all. Middle is no good. And if you don't have a running back that's over a 95, you're not going to go anywhere either. I always liked NFL Blitz and those other games because they allowed themselves to have fun and have silly elements to the games.
I agree.
You know, and it's like when you watch I think it was NBA Streets 2K something, but they had like Mario and Luigi in the game, and it's like, see, we can have fun.
Would you remember some of the unlockable characters in the old NBA Jam was like Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
And you could play, it was like, I'm playing as Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Against Larry Bird. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was always what
I'm hoping.
made me more interested in those games. So.
All right, we got to move on. We got a lot to talk about. So
I want to do Madam Web first.
Let's do Madam Web.
Because I have put up with enough torture, and I don't want to rewatch it. And if we don't have enough time to get to the Acolyte, we can cover 1, 2, and 3 next week.
That's true. Okay, Madam Web.
Yes.
So we finally watched it.
This is the one
much maligned and so maligned.
Justifiably.
Very justifiably maligned. Sony once again screwing up a solid, very beloved Spider-Man character.
Sony's whole thing. Sony has the approach of a 3-year-old, where they go to the toy chest and they dump the whole thing out.
Yeah.
And then they take like one piece and they go over here and they do this, and then they play with that for like 20 minutes, and then, but we got to go over and we got to get a new piece and bring it over, and it's like, you really shouldn't. you should finish what you started, man, because we don't need Peter Parker almost dying in utero. Like this
Okay.
I was waiting for them to say that Ben Parker was the father. I was just waiting for the illicit affair between Ben and Mary Parker.
But once again, that was like, okay.
Well, all of it was okay.
No. I don't mean it like okay. I mean like...
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It was like, okay.
So I want to start with the number one thing in complaint I heard about this movie from critics and reviewers.
The writing?
Not the writing. The
ADR?
number one was Tahir Rahim,
the ADR.
Ezekiel Sims, the ADR, the
really
redubbing
bad.
his voice is so bad.
It's so bad.
How do you watch this before you release it and say, we're going to still release it? It is really, literally a dubbed movie like the OG way they used to dub Hong Kong action movies.
But only for him.
And
And you know they did ADR for other people in the movie.
Dude.
So how is the ADR for this one guy so bad that it stops you immediately? Like, if I didn't know ahead of time that the ADR was here, I would have immediately in that first scene been like, what the fuck's going on with the sound? Why is the sound different when he's talking?
I don't know if I've ever seen it this bad.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
It's egregiously bad.
And it's like right from the get-go,
Immediately. Immediately.
I can't, honestly, if I rewatch that movie, I don't know if I could pick out the moments where it's actually him speaking in the scene.
I don't think he ever speaks.
Without the dub.
I don't think he ever does. I don't know that he speaks for some of the ADR lines.
I don't think he does either.
They might have brought somebody else in.
I'm glad you heard that too, because his accent and some of the ADR changes. So that's why I agree with you. I think it was a different person saying some of the lines.
Yeah, no, I think that there were just some moments where some Sony executive said, no, we're going to have somebody else say that for you.
Probably the Sony executive saying, I could say it better, let me say it. It's like, God damn it, dude.
No, it's really bad.
So bad.
It's really bad. So bad. And like, even before we get to plot and other things, like everything about this movie from production through writing through post-production is terrible. It's
and it really makes you wonder, do they have not, like, either they truly don't give a shit, or they just have the most inept people doing the post-production
I don't know what this was. Like, I actually went back to look and see who the writers were on this, because it was so bad. It was so bad. Like, literally, there's so many moments in this movie that I burst out laughing where I wasn't supposed to laugh.
No, not at all.
And a lot of them came at the climax of the movie.
Yeah.
There was one specific moment that we're going to get to where I was like, are you shitting all over me right now? Why are you taking this giant shit all over me right now?
Right on your chest.
What the fuck is happening?
It was so bad.
It's so terrible. And then the ending happens and I just burst out laughing.
So we got to start at the beginning. So it opens, of course, with the mother being pregnant in the jungle with Ezekiel Sims as her protector.
Ezekiel
He's like a hired
Sims.
gun.
Ezekiel Sims in the biggest scare quotes you've ever seen.
Very much so. Honestly, what I was going to bring up, his ADR, his dubbing reminds me of, was it the second Lara Croft with Angelina Jolie that had Daniel Craig in it? Or was it the first one? I think it was the second one.
See, I can't remember which one was the one that had Gerald Butler in it.
Whichever one had Daniel Craig, if you rewatch that one, his voice is dubbed.
I do remember
the exact same.
Yeah, I do remember this.
And that's what reminded me of this, because that was the last time it was this bad in like a more modern movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is in that level.
And that was, again, one of those situations where, if I remember correctly, it was a producer who came in and said, I don't like his accent. Let's have him do it different. And they're like, okay, we'll just re-record all of his dialogue for the entire movie and put it in post.
It's so bad.
And it's terrible. Bad. It's really bad, guys.
So we start in the forest. The mother's pregnant. Of course, the bad guy, Ezekiel Sims, you know he's up to no good. He's taking pictures of her because she's trying to search for this spider that has has
a chemical compound in its venom that has some kind of insane healing property.
Yeah, and it literally is like the Spider-Man spider, but they know it exists.
Yeah.
And when it bites you, it doesn't die.
It
and
exists
they can use
in nature
it
naturally.
Yeah.
And
nobody's ever found it.
Nobody's ever
only
found
this
it.
woman
It's
knows
protected
about
by
it.
this secret society that's deep in the forest of spider people.
And it's spider people who supposedly have never really had connection with the modern world. But the leader of the spider people is perfectly, his hair, his face, he has a perfect accent. He speaks English flawlessly.
Fluently.
He looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? When he started talking to the mother and she's dying.
That was the first moment where I was like, okay. Because so to set up the scene, because this is insane and stupid. So you have this confrontation between Constance, I think her name is Constance?
I think so.
And Ezekiel Sims. The one who will be called Ezekiel Sims.
Constance.
This man ain't no totem of the spider. Let me tell you straight up. This ain't no totem of the spider. How bad is this movie? I have to get this off my chest. How bad is this movie, Steve? How bad is this movie? The actual storyline involving Ezekiel Sims is so dumb.
Yeah.
I was praying for the inheritors to show up. How dumb?
Yeah.
We're talking about interdimensional vampires who specifically hunt spider people. And Ezekiel Sims is trying to rally all the spider people because he is the totem of the spider, basically the Sorcerer Supreme, but for Spider-Man specifically. And he's trying to rally all these people because he knows the inheritors are coming.
Yeah.
I would rather have had interdimensional vampires.
That would have been a better movie
than this movie.
And to me, you have this. Okay, so you were setting it up. So she finds the spider. So Ezekiel Sims shoots everybody. Doesn't shoot her, and then does get into a fight with her?
Yes.
Okay, so you're this highly trained mercenary, and you are going up against a woman who is 9 months pregnant because she gives birth to a fully formed child after she gets shot.
Well, they tell us later on that she was in her last month of her pregnancy.
And I wish they would have mentioned a little more because it kind of makes her out to be a dick. And in the end of the movie, they mentioned that the baby was sick.
Yeah,
and she knew it, and this was going to help the baby.
She had a degenerative brain disorder,
something like that.
That was going to make it so she was going to die by 4 years old or something. And then, of course, you have Dakota Johnson being like, "I don't have a brain disorder."
And it's like, maybe if you would have interject that into the opening where the mother,
anytime,
you're not like, okay, she's just a bitch because she's out looking for this fucking spider and she's pregnant.
The whole time you're just like, why are you doing this?
Yes, exactly.
What is the fucking point of this?
It didn't need to be a reveal.
And then she's trashing the baby too. The entire time she's talking about how the baby doesn't want me to work, the baby doesn't want me to succeed. And you're like, okay,
you're a fucking dick, dude.
What the fuck is happening? And then Sims kills everybody and you're like, okay, so you're not the totem of the spider.
No.
And he takes this one spider and he, I guess, creates $1 million enterprise of some kind because he's a very wealthy and connected individual.
Yes.
20 years later, when he doesn't look any different.
Nope.
But we do know he ages because he has a vision where he has white hair.
It still killed me that you wouldn't, I'm sorry. She did not look like Sheena, Queen of the Jungle. She looked like a normal scientist.
Yeah.
Who was 9 months pregnant, and he has to struggle to get the jar from her.
I'm going to say really quick, she also didn't look 9 months pregnant.
No.
They do like a reveal where you see her belly, and you're like, well, she didn't look pregnant in the close-up
No, it looked like, okay, let's get a normal human, like, really fit woman and put a belly on her.
They taped a pillow to her stomach, and they said, you're pregnant. Go out there and do your thing.
And it's like, but it's like that right there, I'm like, okay, he could have literally punched her in the face and taken it. But no, he gets the gun, and they do the cliche struggle where the gun hides, and then it goes off. Pop! I wonder what happened.
Oh,
she got shot.
Oh my God.
And it's like, geez. And this movie was full of those goddamn cliches. I wanted to fucking... Oh my God, we're going to talk about that.
Cut to 30 years later.
Yeah.
And Dakota Johnson is driving through post 9/11 Queens.
Yeah.
Now, I bring this up because there's a lot of moments in this movie where I'm just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Because, again, another important thing to remember, and I think this really sets the stage extremely well, this movie is set a year after the Raimi Spider-Man came out. Keep that in mind. The Raimi Spider-Man takes place in 2001, 2002, somewhere in that ballpark, because it's post 9/11, and it came out in 2002.
Well, this is obviously not the same universe.
And this takes place in 2003.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about that, because we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to the insanity of Mary Parker being in this movie.
Oh my God.
Ben Parker being in this movie, whatever. Fine. I disagree with this conceit, but fine. At least you didn't actually have her verbally tell Ben Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah. You got as fucking close to it as possible.
They say it.
You got as fucking close to it.
They switch those words.
I am so mad. I am so mad that the Amazing Spider-Man had to have Martin Sheen as Ben Parker deliver this word salad because they couldn't say great power, great responsibility. They decided we can't do that anymore. We overdid it in the Raimiverse, so now we can't ever do it ever again. So here, word salad. Oh, but this fucking chieftain over here, he can fucking say it. Yeah. He can fucking say it in this trash-ass movie. We can't have it here, but we can here. There's none of it in the Homecoming series, but it's here.
Yeah.
But it's fucking here.
So she's driving an ambulance, and her co-driver is
Ben Parker, who I also want to note is a veteran who is now a paramedic.
Yes.
He's just an electrician.
Yes.
The whole point is that he's just a guy.
He's just a dude, and because he's an electrician, they don't have a lot of money, and that's always played a lot into it, because Peter Parker is not wealthy at all, or they're not even middle class.
They're
like
barely paying their bills.
Barely paying their bills, and that's part of the canon. That's part of the character.
Yeah.
But you're making him to be this, paramedic in New York City, they make good fucking money.
I'm just saying, like, it's a hat on a hat on a hat at this point. He just needs to be a working man.
Yes.
You could have him be a cashier at the Key Foods.
Something.
And it would be more realistic.
But then you're also casting Adam Scott,
who's like doing his sardonic, like,
but you can't write, like, he's a very funny man, and he's good at pulling off, sarcasm if you write it properly for him.
Yeah.
Like, anyone that's seen Step Brothers, that man can pull off some funny shit.
I've seen clips of just Parks and Rec.
Oh, where he's great at Parks and Rec. But it's like you can't even write him like good
halfway
one-liners or anything.
Halfway decently. There's this scene where this scene immediately set the tone for me. So it's the very beginning of the movie as we cut into Dakota Johnson steering down the streets of Queens, right? Yes. And she almost runs over Maddie Franklin, and Maddie Franklin flips her off. And then she is delivering this woman to the hospital, and this woman is about to die. And Ben Parker's like, oh, we gotta do blah, blah, blah. And she's complaining. She's just complaining constantly about everything. And you're like, oh, she's just frustrated because she's busy and she's trying to do her job. She gets to the hospital. We don't see her deliver the patient at all.
Yeah.
A nurse comes up to her and says, how's your patient is going to survive? And she says, what? And it's just...
Yeah,
so you went from like really caring to not caring at all, and then the son of the patient comes up and says, I made this drawing for you, and there is this like 3-minute long excruciating scene about how she doesn't want to take this kid's drawing.
And I hated how they wrote her, because if you're going to be a paramedic, you hear most paramedics, they're compassionate people because they want to save lives. She didn't seem like she gave a shit.
She doesn't give a shit about anything.
I can't wait till we get to the CPR moment.
Oh my God.
I want to talk about the CPR moment.
Okay. But anyway, so you have this stupid back and forth, and then you have Ben being like, I have a baby shower I got to go to.
Yeah.
Baby shower.
But of course, but she got flicked off, and in the hospital, the woman's daughter,
is Sydney Sweeney.
Julia Cornwall.
Her name is Julia Carpenter. Her name is Julia Carpenter, and I know you know this because you stole her costume and gave it to Madam Web.
Yeah.
So I know you know it.
Cornwall.
It's not Cornwall.
Cornwall.
And if there had been a line about how her mother's name is Carpenter, but she's going by her father's name now, anything. But you can't just have the name be weirdly different for no particular reason and never bring it up. Every other character's name is correct. Even calling her Cassie Webb, which, like, we haven't even gotten into the point where you could have had just Madam Web be a interdimensional being. You had to make her human, which, by the way, she hasn't been in the comics in fucking forever.
Yeah.
But sure, we're gonna make her human, like she was in the 70s when they first made her. Congratulations! We haven't in any way improved on this storyline.
I just realized that's my new set-off word for you. I'm not going to say homecoming anymore. I'm going to say Cornwall. Just to say
But it makes me so mad because you have Maddie Franklin, and you have Anya Corazon, and you have fucking Ezekiel Sims, and you're going down the list, and you have all the names right, and you get to Julia Carpenter, and you're like, Cornwall.
And it doesn't make sense.
Why
they would change
one of your most famous faces in the movie, and you're going to misname her, and you don't think anybody's going to notice.
Yeah. It's so weird.
What the fuck?
Well, they were... This movie, I think they weren't thinking any comic book fan would see it. Like, this is people who are fans of, like, CW shows, or Sydney Sweeney, or... what's the movie
Euphoria.
Dakota Johnson was in?
50 Shades.
50 Shades of Grey. This would be like their introduction into a superhero movie. And you can tell it was not written.
It's terrible.
Like a superhero movie with the music and everything. Like it was
music? The music was so forgettable. I didn't even notice that it was there.
Yeah, it was terrible.
This was like Thor, the Dark Thor levels of like the music isn't even sufficient.
Yeah.
It's so mediocre that you don't even notice that it's there. Unlike good films, where the music is used to enhance the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Here's a fucking crazy idea. How about good filmmaking first and foremost? Some of the cuts in this movie, I was just like, what the fuck is happening?
Dude.
What the hell is happening with some of these cuts?
Everything about the filmmaking. Like, we could do a whole show just on the filmmaking of this.
It's awful.
It's truly terrible.
Awful. The writing is awful, and then the filmmaker stepped in and were like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this so much worse.
Okay, so she gets... This is one of those stories where she has her powers in her the whole time, but they haven't come out until there's a trauma.
She has to have a near-death experience.
So she's saving a guy from an ambulance. She's in an ambulance as it falls off a bridge into the water. She bangs her head. When she bangs her head, they do this terrible CGI thing of her in this like spider web.
Well, when she bangs her head, the dent on the window shield turns into a spider web.
I don't even want to think about that.
And then she has this whole has momentary flashes of what's going to happen next. And then she gets fished out of the river. She was apparently dead for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
We get our first CPR scene. Which, if this was an actual attempt to teach the audience CPR, I might be able to get behind it because more people need to know CPR. But that's not what this is.
Dude, this whole movie should have just been called How Many People Can Do CPR Wrong?
How long can how many people do CPR wrong? Because apparently some of these girls are so unfit. These girls that are going to become superheroes can't even do 30 seconds of CPR before they're like, I'm getting tired. And it's just like, I hate this.
So after this is what leads to...
So now she has her powers activated. And she goes to this baby shower.
Yes.
And
it's so cliched. Every single part of this entire scene is every cliche you have ever seen in bad movies, that you have the fish out of water going to an event with people, and then there's people like saying you gotta be, you're not girly, but come do the girliest thing possible. And it's like,
I know you don't know anybody here except for the paramedics. We're all outside, so but because you're a woman, you have to come to the women's part of the baby shower. And I'm just like, but Ben doesn't come to the baby shower. Uncle Ben doesn't come to Peter Parker's baby shower.
But the men are at the baby shower, but they're outside grilling.
Yeah, they don't want to be part of the baby shower.
Shower's taking place
Why
inside.
would they want any part of the baby shower?
Dude.
And then we get to the most infuriating thing in the last 5 minutes, because every 5 minutes there's something maddening that happens. Okay. Now, I want to make this very clear up front. I am not going to defend any decisions made previously for Richard and Mary Parker.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it. I will say, one of my favorite moments that has ever happened, and continues to happen every single time it comes up, is whenever their profession comes up, I hear my dad's voice in my head when we read that comic, and Peter drops the bureau down the attic stairs, and he finds the old passports for his parents, and he opens them up. Spider-Man's parents are traitors. Spider-Man's parents are traitors. Spider-Man's parents are traitors. Because they were both spies. Not Richard was a spy who went off jet setting, and Mary didn't know what he was doing. So on top of everything else, you've devolved Mary Parker from this person who in some iterations is a genius scientist, in some iterations is a genius spy. You've devolved her to this woman who doesn't know where her husband is at any given time. And for some reason, you cast Emma Roberts in the role.
Yeah, that was weird.
What the
It took me a while. I didn't even recognize her at first.
When she showed up, I was like, that is not Emma Roberts.
No, I didn't even know it was her until I looked up the cast list.
And I was just like, what the fuck is this? So what is the point of this? And the point of this is that we can have this little sword of Damocles of Peter Parker is here, but he's in utero for the entire movie. Yeah. But we're going to put Mary Parker in dangerous situations. So then, if he dies, Spider-Man's never born.
And then we're going to do a game where they have to guess the name of the baby.
Oh, but we're going to have a moment right before.
For somebody to say, Peter.
Yeah.
And no one does, but you know. Well,
she's about to announce it.
Yeah.
And then the balloon pops and Cassie is drawn back to the present? Yeah. I'm not sure, because time doesn't make any fucking sense in this goddamn movie. Because things happen. People move around. They're in different locations. Yeah. And then she has like a vision and she's drawn back into her body and she's in a different location than when she had the vision.
Yes.
And I'm just like, so did she have the vision and then move? Did she move while she was having the vision? Is this kind of like a schizophrenic thing where she doesn't even realize that it's happening? Or what's going on? Because we get to heaven sent pigeon.
the baby shower scene though, getting back to that real quick. The cliche in this scene, again, which drove me so mad, was the whole, she's awkward around other women, she doesn't know how to talk, but she still doesn't realize, mentioning, like, instead of when they say, well, your thing is blank, saying, oh, my mother died when I was young, so I don't have a lot of memories, just ending it at that, she goes into this long drawn-out thing of her dying in childbirth.
Yeah.
And not realizing that maybe that's not something you say to a woman who's about to have a baby was so fucking stupid. When she's a goddamn paramedic, she would know, maybe fucking don't say that shit.
Well, and not only that, she talks about how she doesn't know her mother because her mom died in childbirth, and she resents her mom for it.
Yes! It's just like any fucking, you know, unless she went more into the situation she put her in that caused her to die in childbirth. Okay,
but she didn't know about that. Well, she doesn't know about it. So she just has the resentment.
Yes,
the whole thing is just resentment for her, for Cassie, because in her mind, her mom was fucking around and found out.
Yes,
and it's not until later on in the movie that we find out differently.
Yes,
and okay, great, fine, you have a reveal. Okay, I don't care, but. This scene is, again, this is our second nails on a chalkboard, I hate being here scene. And then there's an emergency call at a location, which we are told is a death trap.
Yeah.
and is full of fireworks and explosives. And there's there's a Pepsi Cola sign on the building, but it's facing out, so it's an advertisement. What is this building for? It's 2003. Fireworks are illegal in New York. What is happening?
This led to, before I get to the next cliche that was in this scene, this led to the worst CPR scene. She's giving a guy that is obviously dead CPR. As soon as his eyes open, she goes,
"You're fine.
He's stable. I'm like, what?
What?
You literally just brought this man back from the dead, and you're like, he's stable. The second he opened his eyes, I was like, what the fuck is that?
She doesn't even have any emotional connection to the patient at all. And it's just like, okay, so is this just a job for you? I don't... So it was
the most lackadaisical CPR, the most lackadaisical.
Was this like you found you needed a job, you moved to New York City after being in the foster system? Which also I want to really quickly say, kudos to our shaman who not only speaks English, but went back to the camp, got all of Constance Webb's research and information and sent it with her daughter back to the States.
That was something I was going to touch back on, but you brought it up, so I'm touch back real quick. Cliche numero uno for me in this movie was the unnecessary info dump of a box full of things that she has owned that she just happens to look through everything during this scene. I am so tired of that fucking happening in movies.
Yeah.
It's like there's no... Obviously, she's had this for her whole life, and she's probably looked at it a million times. But right now, just so we can know that she knows certain things, you're going to take 5 minutes of her looking through this shit?
Well, and I love that they set it up as like a Chekhov's gun that she then has to drive 3 hours to get.
Oh, yes.
It's just like,
it's so
what?
fucking bad.
Excuse me. What? So
okay, back to
we have to get back to the explosives factory because I don't know what it is. So it just must be a firework explosive. No, but it's not a factory because there's no like conveyor belts or machinery. It's just pallets. It's not. They call them crates. They're not crates. They're stacks of pallets.
Yes.
And the stacks of pallets, I guess, have fireworks in them, and they keep on exploding. And for some reason, the city hasn't shut this location down. And then we have the tragic death of Mike Epps, who I didn't even realize was Mike Epps until I read the credits. I was like, oh, okay. And he just dies.
But it's once again the cliche. You introduce this father-like figure and his wife who everyone loves, and then you're going to fucking kill him off, right? And it's like, God damn it, dude.
Yeah. And we're supposed to care.
They said, oh, we have this thing, and I was like, he's going to fucking die.
Well, when he says, I need to go get my men.
Yes.
And the firefighter's like, it's too dangerous to go in. Well, I gotta go get my men. Well, you know he's gonna die. Yeah. And it's just like, what the fuck is this shit,
so
man?
Fucking bad.
Like, and again, this is the issue of having Cassie Webb be this nonchalant character who doesn't care about anything. Is that when things happen that you're supposed to care about, between her and Ben being the sarcastic, just kind of like, again, sardonic, like, I don't really fucking care. Whatever. You do what you want. And her just having no emotional connection to anything in the world. Maybe a stray cat, but even then, she hasn't named the cat.
And then, obviously, this is taking place in the spring or summer in New York City.
In 2003.
In 2003. And when she is given time off because of her injury and also the death of the guy,
she's watching A Christmas
Carol. I was like, what?
Why?
And first off, that awful doctor's like, go watch old movies. And she picks a Christmas Carol in the summertime.
I also want to go back to this idea that this factory location warehouse is in Queens within 24 months of 9/11 happening.
Yeah.
There's just an entire warehouse full of explosives with no protection, no regulations, nothing.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it gets set on fire like every 3 weeks. And this is in post 9/11 New York City. Are you sure?
And it becomes the stage for one of the final fight scenes.
It is the stage for the final fight.
The fucking thing up.
Yeah, it's so fucking dumb.
Bad.
So anyway, So the captain dies, and she goes home, and she watches Ebenezer Scrooge to make herself feel better. And
this is the magic pigeon.
And she has this moment where Scrooge is like, I want to change. And she's like, nobody changes, Scrooge. And then she goes to make popcorn, and a bird flies into the window and dies. And she's like, ah. And so she opens the window, and it turns out she was having a vision. And the bird flies in through the open window. And she says, wow, I guess you can change things. I laughed so hard.
The dialogue was
I was
so
like,
bad.
you are fucking shitting me. This is what's going to make it so you embrace your powers. This moment, right here. A pigeon not flying into your window. This is what's going to do it.
And that pisses me off, because after living in the city, I fucking hate pigeons. I wanted it to die.
That was the other thing. Pigeon flies in, and I'm like, well, now you have a whole new host of problems.
Yeah.
Because you have a flying rat. No, the rat's going to fly right back out. No. You are going to spend the next 5 hours trying to get this pigeon out of your house.
Eat all your food. It's going to shit on everything, and it's going to be loud and obnoxious.
And then we get into, I'm a New Yorker, so this pisses me off. The whole movie takes place in Queens. There's a few shots in Midtown where Ezekiel is moving through the city. We don't get to see him move through the city because he doesn't have web spinners, which is like the only thing, because Peter still technically invents the web shooters, so like he wouldn't have them unless he had organic web, which I haven't seen Ezekiel Sims have, but he has had web shooters before. He's the totem of the spider. He's supposed to have all the spider magic powers.
Yeah.
He may have had organic webs at one point. I'm not sure. That's a spider totem power. Is basically Tobey Maguire is a spider totem.
Yes.
Everything he can do, that's what the spider totem can do. The chief dies. Mike Epps dies. We get a call from Ben Parker saying, you should come to the funeral. It's in Poughkeepsie. They're in Queens. That's 3 hours. So unless Ben Parker is calling her like early in the morning so she has time to plan this whole trip out, why is the funeral in Poughkeepsie? And so the way that she decides to go about this is to somehow arrive at GCT, Grand Central Terminal. We don't know how she gets there, but we see her walk into GCT, and she runs into the three girls again, and she gets on a Metro North train, which I don't think is going. They keep on saying the New Haven line. That's not the line for Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie is the end of the line.
Yeah.
New Haven goes, you'll be shocked, to Connecticut, where Poughkeepsie is not. So, she's on this train. She has a vision of all three of these girls dying.
Yes.
She has Method Man look at her and say,
oh my God.
New York's crazy right now. Really, in post 9/11 New York? New York is crazy post 9/11? Who would have ever thought that could be? Oh my God, what a fucking concept. Holy shit, kids. So, she stops Ezekiel Sims, who insists on walking everywhere barefoot, which is never part of the plot.
But
until he puts on the suit.
And he has feet.
And he has boots.
It's
but
like, what the fuck?
We see him walk down so many New York streets. He walked through the subway without shoes on.
The only time he had shoes was in the beginning when he got the NSA agent and he went to the opera or whatever. Yeah. He had shoes on.
Because he couldn't look like a fucking weirdo walking into the mat without shoes on.
But like, this is the part that killed me, because most superheroes, if they have their outfit underneath their clothes, they have their boots on under their shoes.
Yeah.
So he ripped off his suit where his superhero suit was on underneath, and he stopped to put boots on.
Well, and why does he have a superhero suit anyway?
I don't know.
Superheroes don't exist in this universe. No. Pretty clearly, there's no superhero presence.
Nope.
There's no conversation about like, oh, if we just need to wait around. Let's even pull from the other Sony canon, right? Any other Spider-Man character you can take and put in here and say like, oh, so there's no Puma. There's no fucking, I'm trying to think of somebody who's not a clone of Peter Parker. There's no Black Cat. There's no, like, you could have various people of either anti-hero or hero kind of caliber be here. But they're not. No. So we have to presume that there is no superhero presence in New York City in this movie.
I mean, to me, it was obvious. The only reason he had this suit is they wanted someone to look like Spider-Man.
That's exactly it.
To get people to go to see the movie.
That's exactly it. And that's the problem.
Yes.
Is that they didn't realize how dumb a fucking decision it is to have gone so hard to try and, again, I know you know what canon is, because in the vision that we see Sims have, he looks like he did in the comics. He had the stark white hair. He has the green and black suit. And like a 3-piece suit, not like a Spider-Man suit. Like it's a black jacket, green shirt, and he has no shoes on and he's sticking to the wall. That's Ezekiel Sims from the comic book. I can grab you a picture out of a book right now to show you that that's him. So why does he have a suit? And why did you go through the process of keeping him barefoot if you're going to have his suit have feet? And then, why did you make it so that there's this whole conversation about whether or not somebody could stick to the ceiling or not? Because we have to call him Ceiling Guy for the next 20 minutes and kill me. Just like little daggers in my chest over and over again. Never hitting my heart, never hitting anything vital. But, oh, it's 1,000 cuts, baby. Because we got to call him Ceiling Guy for the next 40 fucking minutes of this goddamn movie. And we have a whole conversation about whether he could even do that. That doesn't make any sense. You'd have to have both hands and feet. But then we see him walking on the ceiling without his hands. And I'm just like, so what the fuck is the point of any of this? Because you keep on reestablishing ideas like nobody's ever heard of them in the Spider-Man mythos. And you're creating them for the first time, a la a conversation about what it would take to crawl on walls.
Yeah.
And then you immediately fly in the face of what you've just established. So what the fuck is is it the usual rules, or are you establishing new rules?
Yeah.
Because I also have to ask, so, again, we get this vision. This is the premise of the movie. Sims has a vision.
Yeah.
Zeke has a vision. Zeke's vision is, and he has it every night, because he stole this magical spider, and he's not the spider totem in this universe. We can get into other that's whatever. I'm not even going to pick that up.
But the magic spider is now like his pet, and he holds
the magic spider is now his pet. He has a little terrarium that he takes it out of and kind of plays with it.
And it is a over-the-top villain terrarium, too.
Yeah. So he has this spider, and now because he stole it and killed people, he has evil visions of how he's going to die. His whole thing is that he wants to find the girls that are going to kill him before they kill him.
Yes.
Okay, fine, whatever. So he somehow finds this NSA agent, sleeps with her, poisons her, gets her to tell him her password, kills her, and then brings in this assistant who has now full access to the Patriot Act era NSA.
Yes.
And I'm just like, okay, well, are you going to have fuzzy pictures then? Because that's all I can think of is that they didn't, in 2003, they didn't have all the cameras set up yet. The premise that they established at this point, and it was the same conclusion I came to, was the vision has to be about 10 years out, right?
Yes.
That's the premise that they establish, is that given what he's described, it's about 10 years out, and these girls have powers and they come and kill him.
Even though the girls look exactly the same as what they do now.
Let's do some quick math. I don't like math, but let's do some quick math. In the canon of Spider-Man, which I have seen more than any God-fearing American should ever sit through.
I absolutely believe that.
The youngest I've ever seen Peter bitten by the spider is 14. The youngest I've ever seen anyone bitten by the spider is Miles Morales at 12.
Uh-huh.
Going by the logic that we are presented with here, Peter is in utero, and these girls get their spider powers. They get their spider powers 5 years before Spider-Man.
Yes.
At least, if we're getting really, really nice, I'll give you 11. Let's say Peter gets bit at 11. We have to deal with an 11-year-old Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which makes the Black Cat stuff really bad. If we go by that premise, they still all have their powers for an undisclosed amount of time before Peter gets bit. So
and
Peter's
they're
now
heroes in New York City.
So Peter's now like the 5th spider person in this universe by proxy.
Yes.
And I'm just like, what is this plan? What is going on? Like, again, if you wanted to embrace the mysticism of it, but you keep on pushing the mysticism away and saying, no, we can come up with scientific solutions for everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just embrace the mysticism of it. It's almost like Madam Web is an interdimensional being with omnipresence and omni-knowledge. I'm just, what the fuck is this, guys? What are we doing?
And, like, the scene where he has the dream of the three of them, that reminded me, and I brought this up before when I said it was like a WB movie. That looked cheesy.
The costumes were not good.
They were not good, but then, like, every time they did something, they had to give their, like, stern superhero face and pose. That was a CW. It's like everything about this movie, it didn't feel like a movie. It felt like a couple TV episodes put together of something.
I
disjointedly.
I was looking at Not Julia Carpenter, who has these weird psycho webs that she shoots.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
I have no idea what that shit is.
What the fuck is this shit? Like, is this because she becomes Madam Web later on, so she's using her connection to the Loom world? No, because that's not part of this canon.
Yeah.
So she just has psychic webs now for some reason, and the Maddie Franklin costume looks awful.
Oh, it looked terrible.
Awful. The what is her name? I want to say it's Aranya.
Anya.
Well, Anya, but her comic book character's name is Aranya.
Aranya.
And then she later takes on the mantle of Spider-Girl after Julia Carpenter and Maddie Franklin both pass it off to her. I say Maddie Franklin passes it off. Maddie Franklin died. Anyway, that was okay. And she had the little zipper thing that she threw, and that was fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's canon. We can use it. It's cool. What the fuck is going on with these other two who are so polarly different from their characterizations in the movie itself? Like, Sydney Sweeney is overly... She's like the good Catholic girl to like a fault.
Yeah.
To a point where it's almost laughable. And then she apparently at some point becomes this very steel-faced killer. And I'm just like, what is going on? What's happening?
I really didn't like how stupid they made her.
They made her really dumb.
They made her really dumb.
And not then, like ditzy blonde dumb, like I've never had to live 5 minutes in the real world dumb. All of them, Anya less so, but Maddie and Julia were just so intolerable at times. Because they were so stupid.
And what made it like kind of infuriating to me is, so they made Sydney Sweeney like seem kind of like this innocent schoolgirl.
Yeah.
But then the second they were around boys,
she can't.
All of a sudden, her shirt's all tied up and her boobs around. She's dancing on a table.
She can't take her eyes off the boys. She's totally boy crazy.
What the fuck
and
happened
I'm just like,
here,
what's
dude?
happening? And she's the one that's trying to keep a low profile. She's the one that keeps on saying we got to keep
so
a low profile.
Nervous of everything.
And I'm just like, what is this character?
It was so terrible. That dynasty was fucking terrible.
I just all of it I found infuriating. I was just like, what is going on with?
But going into what we were talking about with Ezekiel and his person in the chair, let's take it from Spider-Man.
His Ned Leeds.
I remember 2003. The technology they're using didn't fucking exist back then.
They had flat screens. That was not a thing.
Yeah, with high definition digital cameras all over the city.
Not a thing.
It wasn't a thing in 2003.
That's not a thing, guys.
I think people forget, like, technology in 2003 was like the very first iPhone.
Not even. I don't think the first iPhone came out for another 2 or 3 years.
I think it was 2003. I'm trying to remember because I remember I was rooming with my buddy and he had that phone. No, you're right. It was later. It was later.
I think it was like 2004, 2005 was when the iPhone came out.
So it was even before that.
This was before any kind of cell phones.
Even when they threw the cell phone, no, they had like the flip phones and shit.
But like you'd have to be rich.
Yeah.
Like the one that Maddie had, that didn't come out for another 7 or 8 years. That was not a thing.
And they were still analog then. They weren't digital, so it's not like they could track you like they can now. So they can track you throughout the window. It's like, you're in the wrong time
what
to
are
do
you
this.
talking about?
Technology like this did not fucking exist.
Reminder.
Yes.
This movie takes place in the same year between Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
I think it's incredibly important to remind everybody that anytime you see anything that looks possibly modern, it's wrong. And we know this because we have a Spider-Man movie from that era.
So, get back to the train. She has her vision. She somehow gets the girls to go with her and believe her. And when they get off the train, they get surrounded by police. They're about to arrest Madam Web. I can't remember what her real name is. Cassie. They're about to arrest her, but then Ezekiel comes out and starts killing all the cops.
No, Ceiling Guy.
Ceiling Guy. I apologize.
Here's the other thing. They never gave him a different name.
No, it was
Steve,
just
they never
Ceiling
gave
Guy.
him a different name.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a code name of some kind. They don't call him the Totem or anything later on. He never introduces himself by a different name. He's just Ceiling Guy.
Yeah. And Cassie will refer to him as Ezekiel and sometimes.
Occasionally, when she's not calling him Ceiling Guy.
But, like, this is the part that infuriated me. He kills all the cops.
Why?
And first why, but take that out of the equation. He kills all the cops. And the girls are like, turn around and run. And they make it to the steps And it's like 20 feet from where they start running to the steps. There are no more living cops.
No.
And they make it to the steps while other cops come down before he can come out. I was like, how is that a thing?
Are you fucking kidding me?
He was like super fast killing the police where you couldn't even see him.
When we see him leaping later on in the movie, huge distances. I keep on talking about that stupid scene in Homecoming where Peter gets stranded on a golf course because he can't web anywhere. And I'm just like, except that you can jump 500 feet at a single time.
Yeah.
But sure,
you're like the Hulk with your jumping abilities.
You're like the Hulk and you weigh about a third of the Hulk.
Yeah.
So you have a little less strength than the Hulk, but a greater degree of strength to weight ratio.
Yes.
So you can go incredible distances without webs.
Yeah.
It's not just the webs. That's not...
Let's not get into Homecoming.
We
gotta stop. Can't go towards that.
I'm trying so hard.
We gotta trash this.
I have this other bright light over here that's making me mad.
No, stay on target. Stay on target.
That whole sequence, and then the police arrest her, and I was just like, but you didn't see the guy that just took out like an entire troop of your people, and you think that this woman with these 3 teenage girls who are following her is the person that took out an entire squad.
And that was the funny part, is when Julia gets out and screams, she's abducting us, the cops, don't turn around or pay attention to them. And then as they're running, this is a different set of cops.
Yeah. And
like you said, the girls are following Cassie without her holding them.
No.
And they still grab Cassie, and it's like, obviously she's not fucking abducting them.
Unless she has, like, a phone from 3 years from now and Liam Neeson on the other end with a gun to the head of each of their loved ones. Like, that's the only way that she'd be able to make them go where she wants them to.
That's it.
Without any kind of other outside force. So,
fuck.
This is fucking awful. Let's go on the run.
I think I have an ulcer growing during this episode.
You have problems. I have to sleep tonight.
I know.
No, so what's the solution to this? We got to get out of New York City, so we're going to drive to the woods of Jersey.
We're going to steal a cab.
We're going to steal a cab.
Somehow get away from Ezekiel.
Somehow get away from all the cops in New York City.
All the cops, I don't know how they got away from anybody.
Again, in a post-9/11 world, you're going to have all the cops in New York City looking for you, but none of them are going to go to your house. And none of them are going to keep any tabs on you at all. And they know that you stole a taxi, but if there's a yellow cab driving through New Jersey...
Yeah.
Again, if you're from New York, yellow cabs don't leave the island.
Yes.
Okay? Yellow cabs are only in Manhattan. Okay? So if there was a cop who knew that a yellow cab had been stolen by a 30-year-old woman with 3 teenage girls in the back seat, and you saw a yellow cab driving through New Jersey with 4 people in it, I think that's your cab!
Totally it. And I love how they had the narrative decision to, okay, Cassie just saved these girls from a near-death experience. She is the adult in the car, and she is going to be the biggest see you next Tuesday you could possibly write acting towards these girls.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to her, I'm like, how are you... How are you making her act like this?
They haven't even fucked up yet, and she's acting this way to them.
No, they were like trying to be nice-ish.
Yeah. And like they were just confused why she was abducting them in the first place.
Yes.
And then this guy tried to kill them, and they were like, I guess we're going to go with this woman who's trying to protect us.
Yeah.
And then anytime they have any questions for her, she's like, fuck you. And it's like, what the hell is this?
And then she's like, well, your parents will take care of it. Oh, none of our parents are around. No, well, fuck it.
Fuck it.
We're going to leave you in the woods anyways.
Yeah. Oh my God. Let's talk about the woods.
God.
We get to the woods. They don't have any food. They have a bag of beef jerky that was in the glove compartment. And we have a whole like, oh, but how long has it been open? And what kind of germs are on them? Blah, 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 blah. So Cassie has this whole back and forth with the teens. And she's like, I got to go back to my apartment and get all these notes on this weird spider guy that my mom had notes on. So it's a 3-hour drive back into Queens.
Yes.
From New Jersey.
Yes.
The only way to get to which is by the FDR, which runs, anybody who doesn't know, the perimeter of Manhattan. To get from one bridge over from New Jersey, bridge or tunnel, to bridge or tunnel, to Queens, you have to take a route through Manhattan. So we are once again told that Cassie drives all the way back to Queens, where she goes to her building, which I guess has cops out front, but none in front of her apartment.
Yeah.
And none in the alleyways around the building. So she's able to take the fire escape and climb up into her apartment so she can go through her box of magical stuff to try and get some answers and also try and crawl on the wall. Because we needed a little comedy, I guess. Oh. How would you know if you could crawl on walls if you've never tried to crawl on walls, Steven? How would you know?
I don't know.
So... Meanwhile,
this is so terrible.
The girls decide to piss Smokey the Bear right the fuck off.
Oh my god.
The girls have built a fire in the middle of the woods, and they're now arguing over what to do next. And we get a little bit of backstory on all of them. Maddie's parents are in China, and they don't like her.
Yes.
Julia's parents are separated, and her mom is not around. Anya, we don't know anything about. Oh, we got to go to a diner. I'm so hungry. I can't stand it.
We find out she used to be a Girl Scout.
Yes. No, she wanted to be a Girl Scout.
She wanted to be. That's true. She wanted to be a Girl Scout.
Scout. So Cassie tells her, pretend to be a Girl Scout. So they build a fire.
Which is like, dude, there are like true outdoorsmen that don't know how to build a fucking fire without matches or anything.
Well, and then it gets even better because Maddie is like, you won't like me when I'm hangry, a term that was not around.
Yeah.
In 2003.
That's true.
So she demands that they go to a diner that she saw nearby. Now, how did she see this diner that's further up the road than they went? I don't know. That's not important, though, because they have to go and wander through the woods and I guess kind of get lost, but they eventually find their way to the diner. Except that so they never put out the fucking fire. So the entire time I'm just watching as Smokey the Bear is just like, what the fuck are you doing, kids? Yeah. What the fuck is wrong with you? And so we go to this diner and Britney Spears starts playing and we're all having a fun time.
And of course there's a group of young, like, high school
boys that are on some trip for their lacrosse final or football game or baseball finale or World Series competition. Who the fuck knows why they're there? They look like the fucking Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
The fucking Batman.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises.
A movie I also don't like. You'll be shocked to hear.
And it's like, the part that once again kills me is... I don't... And like, this is a female director, and I think she co-wrote the script.
Yes.
So you have
with three other people.
With three other people. So you have these female characters who you are playing off that they're not dumb. Like they're very survival. They're survivalists. They're smart and capable, and they're in a life or death situation. But they see boys and they just turn into table dancing sluts.
Well, and like,
and I didn't get that. I'm like, why would you do that?
Well, and like, there was also the element of when they're sitting there and they've ordered all the food in the diner, and Maddie's like, but I want cherry pie. And Anya, I guess, is like, no, that's the line no further. The pancakes, the 3 hamburgers, the giant plate of fried chicken. No problem. You want cherry pie? Yeah, no, fuck that. We don't have time for cherry pie. We just have a time for a 4 stack of pancakes. That's all we have time for. We don't have time to wait for cherry pie. And so they get on, they start dancing because, no, you can't tell me you don't like Britney Spears or whatever the fuck she says.
It was so infuriating.
And so Cassie is rushing back and she's rushing back and she gets back and she watches as Ezekiel kills all 3 girls.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay. And then she dies herself and then what? She's back in the woods and she's with her car and that same Britney Spears song starts playing on the radio. And I'm like, so wait. Hold on. Hang on a second, really quick. I just want to make sure that I fully understand what's going on here. She's going to get to the diner where she doesn't know where it is. Again, I guess it's up the road.
Yeah.
She's going to get there in like the 3.5 minutes it's going to take to play this song. Except that we see that it's at least a mile away because she gets stuck in traffic. Yeah. So it can't be that close.
Can't be that close.
Because she's stuck in traffic. And somehow she still just barely makes it in time to drive through the front of the diner and bash Ezekiel
with the car.
And Ezekiel, whose super strength is so up and down. The entire movie. Does he have super strength? Does he not have super strength? Does he have super strength? Because in the vision, he gets kicked out to the top of the building and he falls to his death. Except, hang on, really quick, I've seen Pete take that fall.
Yeah.
So does he have super strength or doesn't he? Because this is going to come up again later on.
Very much so. Well, and then once again, I have seen cars that have driven through buildings.
They don't start
again. They don't drive again. Not only did they not drive again, but it had a little damage to the front.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you drove that through the fucking diner.
Yeah.
That thing should be fucked.
Yeah. After you drove it all over the place, back and forth through New York.
Yes.
Without anybody noticing, I guess.
Oh, my God.
So So she gets lightly poisoned by Ezekiel, but it doesn't really fucking matter. It's more just
like a bee sting.
It's just like so that they know that he can do that, but it doesn't fucking matter.
And like he had that with the NSA agent, Jill Hennessy, by the way.
But she killed him.
But he even said to her, I can stop before the poison gets to your lips and you'll survive.
He went so far as to say, I can remove the poison from your body.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that, Zeke? Wait, no. Camera 2, stay on him. How are you going to remove the poison from her body?
What good is the poison you have with your touch that you have to really hold on to
for like a sustained
for
period
a while
of time,
before it takes effect?
For a sustained period, like I think like 3 or 4 minutes before it reaches your heart.
Because after that whole scene, at one point, Dakota Johnson just goes, "Oh," and lifted
my
her hand, and that was it.
She kind of does like if you have hand cramps or arthritis, she's like, "Oh, my hand."
And it didn't even have like the
no
marks
scars,
on it.
no nothing.
No, gone.
Just totally fine. All the girls are like, "Is your hand okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then it's just like, "What the fuck was the point of this?" So they go to a motel and they spend the night and they all learn each other's tragic backstories.
Yeah.
And Dakota Johnson has a moment where she's like, do I really want to save these girls? Because that's her entire storyline, is just every 20 minutes she's like, do I really want to save these girls?
She's just the worst person in the world.
And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's like saying, do I want to survive this zombie apocalypse? Except even then, there's still an argument to be made of like, fuck it, I'm done fighting zombies. I'm just going to die. But like, you know that you're the only person that can do anything about this because you've shown that you're the only person that can do anything about this.
And what is the big bonding scene in the hotel?
Oh, CPR.
CPR!
She has to teach them. She has to teach them all how to do CPR, but she doesn't do it very well. And there's just like this moment where it's supposed to be like she's becoming their mother, and she's like she's decided to start complimenting the girls and being encouraging,
teaching them teamwork by saying, "Okay, you got to be in rhythm with one another to switch out." Yeah. It's like. Okay. Mr. Miyagi is rolling over in his grave somewhere in the teaching abilities.
Okay, and Maddie Franklin doesn't think high fives are cool.
Yeah,
any teenager who doesn't think high fives are cool. High fives are super cool.
I think the reason why the Celeste O'Connor Maddie Franklin character pisses me off so much
is because all she does is complain.
Well, not only all she does is complain is. Celeste O'Connor was one of my favorite parts of the new Ghostbusters because she's
lucky. She's lucky,
and she pulled her off so well as being tough, intelligent, and
capable. Again,
very capable.
The adjectives that we keep on going back to are tough, smart, capable.
Yes, and she's none of
those things. None of the girls are. And I get it. This is pre-superhero and everything. But there has to be a level.
And she's the outlying badass where it's like, I don't slap hands, and I ride a skateboard.
But I don't high five.
It's like, sure, whatever. You don't hacky sack either? I doubt that shit.
Yeah, and you've never smoked weed in your entire goddamn life.
No.
You definitely only skateboard. Sure.
So they reconnect with one another.
Never drank a Red Bull in a day. Never. No. So they connect, and then overnight, Cassie has another moment where she's like, maybe I gotta go. Maybe I can't be here. And so she drives back to the diner, and she has this psychic conversation with Zeke.
It reminded me so much of Rey and Kylo Ren.
I want to remind everybody, neither of these characters is telepathic.
No.
All right? Now, you can make an argument that it's a connection via the web world, Loom world, the web of life, but it's not that.
That was the situation that confused me the most. Because they played every scene like that in this as her having a vision that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, is this a vision? Is he going to show up at the diner? No. And then when you realize it's telepathy, you're like, what the fuck is going on?
And then it turns out it was just a dream, and they were communicating via dreams on the Loom. And it was just like, what?
It was so nuts.
What is happening?
It was so nuts.
You have not done any of the legwork to set any of this up.
They made all this up.
This is all bullshit nonsense. Yeah. Like, I could see us getting here if you had set it up. If you were doing Loom World, if you were doing the Web of Life, if you were doing the Spider Totems, those all have connections to what's happening right now. You have fully and entirely decided you are not doing those things.
Yeah.
Which, again, I have to emphasize to our listeners, I hate that storyline. I like the Spider-Verse storyline.
Yes.
I hate the Inheritors. The Inheritors are stupid as shit. The best decision that Across the Spider-Verse made was getting rid of the Inheritors. I would rather have the Inheritors. This is intolerable. They have this moment, and Cassie decides, I gotta know more. So in the middle of this era where they're on the run and Ezekiel can find them at any second, she decides, I gotta go to Peru. And so she does. She leaves the girls with
So-
Ben Parker
Yes.
and goes to Peru.
Yes.
A woman who is wanted by the NYPD gets on a plane in post 9/11 New Jersey and flies to Peru. Really?
Where she meets Santiago, who we find is the name of the guy in the beginning, who is part of the Spider Clan.
Yes.
But now he looks like something out of Kill Bill at the end when he runs into
He has like the linen shirt.
the linen shirt and the suit and all that. It's like, what the?
What
I
the
don't
hell?
understand this
And then-
hidden tribe that climbs on treetops.
It's so terrible.
And he's wearing a linen suit.
And they're dressed as Spider-Man, kind
Oh, God,
of.
it's so-
Like, I can give it to you because they're wearing these webs, and so, like, okay, it's webs, it's spiders, I'll give it to you. Spidey wears webs because he's Spider-Man, I get it, but, like, come
so fucking
on.
bad. So they
you
have
know,
this
I have to
big-
know that this looks like Pete's costume. Like, you know that this does.
And then he pulls
He pulls an ancient one and
and
dumps her into
sends
this magic
soul
pool, and she has this whole come to God moment with her mother and learns
Well, it's
all the stories.
It's the pool that her mother died in. So
Yeah,
her soul must
and
be
that she
trapped
was
in there.
born in.
Yes.
And so there's this whole thing, and she comes out of it, and now she has a deeper connection to her powers, which are now different. And she keeps on being told, once you master your powers, you'll be able to be in more than one place at a time. Now, to me, in my mind, I hear this line, and I think, oh, because she's a precog, because she's clairvoyant.
Yeah.
So she can see different scenarios and plan around them, thus seeming like she's in more than one place at a time.
No.
We're going to get back to that.
Yeah.
She goes home after this trip to Peru.
And while she's on the way back,
What do you know? Zeke finds the girls because Mary Parker goes into
Into
labor
labor.
with Peter.
Yes.
And Uncle Ben has to drive them to the hospital. And this was the moment where I was going to be like, so this is the moment that they tell us that Peter's actually Ben's child.
Yes.
And that they had an illicit relationship while Richard was away, and that this is actually Ben's kid. We never get there. We don't even get hints at it. But also, as a paramedic, you'd think he'd be able to handle the situation a little better. A little better. With a little bit more decorum and ability.
where he has to freak out when her water breaks. Oh, you're not due for 4 weeks.
Yeah. And Richard's
Dude,
not here.
That fucking baby, when it was born, ain't no 4 weeks
No.
before that baby. That baby is fucking past term.
My favorite thing is that we get Chekhov's puddle.
Oh,
Where she
yes.
comes back to the
And she
brownstone
sees the puddle.
and she sees the puddle. I want to emphasize, Mary comes in and says to everybody, I either peed myself or my water just broke. And then they have a whole conversation where they agree to go to the hospital, and the girls take time to get ready and put on like pseudo costumes, which is just hoodies with their hoods
Yeah.
up. No one cleans up the puddle.
No.
And they can't, because that's the only clue Cassie has to what's going on, is that she shows up and she sees a puddle in the kitchen.
And-
Mary's water must have broken.
A little inside baseball. Water is not legitimately what comes out. It is not a clear liquid. I have seen it firsthand. It is not a clear puddle of water on the floor. The term water has broken is just a term that is used.
Well,
it is not water.
It's like how in the Revolutionary War era, people would say, I'm going to make water on the wall. I'm going to go take a pee.
Yeah.
That means I'm going to go take a pee.
Yeah. That looks like somebody dropped a glass of water on the floor.
Mary's water is broken, and Cassie has another vision of them in danger, and Ezekiel finally being like, I will now use explosives.
Yes.
After everything.
Which is very reminiscent to that whole scene at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Electro, and they're in the middle of this
Yeah.
area of the street, and it's like, kind of looks familiar.
Oh my God. So she rushes to them, and Ezekiel is right on top of them, and is about to blow up everybody, including Peter Parker.
And then it turns into the Dukes of Hazzard.
And then through a billboard. I have so many questions.
But they even slowed it down to where I was expecting that voiceover that used to be in the
look
Dukes
at the
of
Duke's
Hazzard.
voice at the end.
Oh, look at Cassie. She found a way.
Yeah. So she hits Ezekiel with a ambulance after stealing
And
a
the
second car.
ambulance is perfectly fine.
For now.
For now.
Until we get to plot points later where it needs to break down.
Yes,
At which
exactly.
point, the plot armor comes off and it's like, I'm dead. Ben and Mary make it to the
Yes.
hospital. Cool, great. We have this stupid scene where the lace at the top of the curtain, the privacy curtain, looks like a web after Peter's been born, and is like, okay, this sucks, guys. You have to know this sucks. But we don't care about that because we didn't want to care about it in the first place. I wish to God the Parkers weren't in this fucking movie. Instead, we follow Cassie has one more vision and now has enough control over her powers that she turns this death trap into just a trap.
Yeah.
That she's going to save the girls from being stuck in and trap Ezekiel in. And the way that they're going to do this is by calling a helicopter, and it's going to come over and pick them up off the roof after they've set the firework factory on fire. And wouldn't you know it, it doesn't work because the helicopter can't land anywhere. And then a firework goes off and destroys the helicopter.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what the fuck? So you have all these moments of just Cassie saying, ex-girl, look out, duck now, do this, duck, get down, do this, run left, jump. And I'm just like, this is not good, guys. This is not good. And so Ezekiel Sims finally gets the best of them, and he's finally cornered them and immediately disposes of all three girls. I like that Anya and Maddie at least made attempts to stop him. The attempt made by Sydney Sweeney is laughably dumb. She basically just comes up and says, stop. And then he pushes her off the roof. And it's just like, what was the point of that? Explain to me what the point of that was. And so we have the moment that we've been, the Chekhov's gun is here. It's time to take it down from the wall. And no, she literally can be in more than one place at a time.
Yeah.
Why? Who the fuck knows?
Because the writers needed that to happen.
And so she goes, Ezekiel says, you can't save all three of them. Which again, even if you killed just one of them, your vision would no longer be true. Yeah. So we're not going to get into that though, because we have to talk about this.
It wasn't like she was in multiple places. It was like
her spirit divided and went, but her spirit could still affect the physical world.
Yes,
even Doctor Strange. Even Doctor Strange, when Doctor Strange goes non-corporeal, when he enters the what's it called? It's
not the mirror realm.
No, it's it's in D&D too. I can't think of what it's called.
But it's like the example of when his body is on the table and his spirit is the astral plane. Thank you.
So when Doctor Strange goes on the astral plane, he can't touch physical things.
Yes.
Cassie can. Cassie can enter and manipulate the astral plane and also not leave physically from anywhere.
Yes.
And I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
It was so crazy.
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
What is this bullshit? And then we have the moment where I question Ezekiel Sims' super strength because, again, it turns off at the worst time when he falls off a roof and kind of survives and then has a sign fall on him and then dies. Yeah. And I'm like, so you took the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I'm just going to kill Captain Marvel by dropping a big stone on her. You know, call me crazy. In my experience, that has never worked, and I don't think it would work here. Yeah. But sure, let's fucking go for it. And so Cassie is blown into the water.
And it just happens to be a big S.
Oh, yeah.
Like Spider-Women.
And Sims.
And Sims.
And spiders.
There's so many things.
Oh, it's so symbolic. This Pepsi sign means so many things. You know, it still bothered me more when she went to the baby shower and was handed a can of Pepsi and had to hold it to camera the entire time.
Like, I can't have a drink, and she's like shaking. It's like, God damn it. It's like, it was right out of Mike Myers.
And every time she's talking in the baby shower, she's like clicking her nails on the can, and it's just like, dude, wow, good job.
How did this movie not make money when you obviously got millions from fucking Pepsi?
But we're not done yet. We're somehow not done yet. No. Because Cassie is thrown into the river.
Yes.
And here I am being an idiot. Okay, first off, I thought the being in multiple places at once thing was kind of being like a metaphorical thing. And you could just set up traps and they would go off because you were clairvoyant and you knew where to set up traps to make sure that people got caught, right? No, not that. Literally in multiple places at once. Madam Web is famously blind. She wears a thing over her eyes. Famously blind. Yes. Because she is an omnidimensional being. So she has incredible psychic powers.
Yes.
I was sitting here being like, so she's going to lose her vision before the third act, and then the girls are going to have to step up and help her with her instructions to save her and get her through the situation. And hey, we have this poison. What if she has the poison go through her system just enough to blind her and whatever? No. She gets hit in the face with a errant firework that goes through the water, which again, I don't think would work.
Nope.
And is blinded. Sydney Sweeney swims down. I guess it didn't look like her at all.
No.
It wasn't until they get back up on shore and she's soaking wet that I was like, wait, that was Julia? That didn't look like Julia. No. So they do CPR, heroic CPR.
Of course they had to because they were taught.
Yeah. And She wakes back up and all the girls are like, oh, we did it. She is clearly blind.
Yeah.
She's very clearly blind.
And no one makes any comment of it.
She doesn't say that I can't see anything, and the girls don't note that she is clearly blind. But even more than that, we get to see their fancy penthouse apartment, because you have to have a penthouse apartment when you're a superhero. And she has a Professor X chair, because Madam Web is a paraplegic canonically. Did anything happen to cause her to be a paraplegic in this movie?
We never hurt her spine.
If it did, we were never told. She just shows up in a fancy-ass wheelchair.
And then her tone.
Her tone is fully different.
She is that, like,
She is fully graduated to being a fully realized celestial being.
All of a sudden.
And it out of nowhere. And the girls are now living with her. And she's kind of like pseudo-training them or preparing them for when they get their powers, even though none of them have gotten their powers yet. And she's just like, they're like, can you see us, even though you can't see us? And she's like, oh, I can see you better than I've ever had being able to see you. And then we get another flash to the future, which is capped off with Madam Web's terrible costume.
Dude, that whole terrible
costume. This was the moment I thought I was going to die laughing. I was like, are you fucking shitting me?
I wanted to say, I've seen those sunglasses on Hulk Hogan in like an 80s TV show or something.
Macho Man Randy
Savage.
Savage.
Macho Man. Those Macho Man
I'm just sitting here like, what is this shit? All you had to do was tie a red band around her eyes. That's it. That's her whole fucking thing.
And not have her like floating in the air like she's going to do some kind of superhero stuff. She's literally the guy in the chair. Literally.
Also, what are her powers? What are her powers? Because apparently she has some kind of telekinetic ability, because she can lift herself and others. She can move through the spirit realm while also still being able to affect tangible things. She's clairvoyant, which is the only thing she actually should be. She's mildly telepathic, but she might even be even more telepathic now.
Yep.
What is her power set?
I don't...
Because we're getting into that Superman realm of she can do whatever she needs to unless she's done it before.
And this is where I think not only Sony and Marvel are running into the problem when you don't follow canon, and then you need to write your way out of a situation, you're going to change people's powers or give them different powers, but then you're putting yourself into a situation where the whole narrative of this character is based on their set power set, but if you change the power set, it has to change everything.
Everything is fucked.
And it's you can't fucking do that.
You can't do half mysticism, half science, and all this other nonsense that you're doing. You have to, if you're going to do the spider totems, you just got to do the spider totems. All right? And that's what the storyline essentially is you take Ezekiel Sims out, you put in a very, very old version of Madam Web that looks nothing like Madam Web has looked in 30 years. That's it. That's the storyline. Except instead of girls, it's Peter Parker. Yeah. Ezekiel Sims is working to try and save Peter Parker from an outside force, and he keeps on showing up, and Peter's like, why are you here, and why are you trying to do this? I don't get it. And also, he kidnaps Cindy Moon and puts her in a bunker underground. But we don't need to talk about that, because thank God Silk wasn't here. Yeah. She avoided this fucking catastrophe. And I was sitting there waiting for an end credit scene, and I never applaud when there's no end credit scene. I get angry when there's no end credit scene.
Which Sony usually doesn't.
And I was so thrilled that they skipped it. I was like, thank you. Yeah. I can just be released. I can be done with this.
I think Morbius was one of the first post-credit scenes for Sony movies, just because they wanted to do that whole tie-in to the Spider-Verse.
The Vulture. Yeah. What universe do you take place in, Sony? Because it's definitely not the Marvel universe. I can guarantee you, because S.H.I.E.L.D. would have been around if this was the MCU.
See, listen, this movie is beyond an F. It's that bad.
Oh, it's like
there's nothing good about this movie.
Minus. Like, this is a terrible movie.
It's and it's not
even fun to watch. Terrible.
No, it's not even so bad it's good. No. Like, it's just a bad movie.
I think The Room is a better movie than this.
Oh yeah.
Like that's how bad this movie is. Yeah. Sharknado is probably a better movie than this.
Well, it's those movies that try to not, like, they know they don't take themselves serious. Where this takes itself way too serious.
This is the Marvel equivalent of a Asylum movie, where it's basically Pacific Rim, but it's Atlantic Siege.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yes. You know? Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It's like, it's very clear what movie this is supposed to be.
Sharkticon versus Octopus or whatever.
Exactly. You can tell what this movie is supposed to be, and yet it is fully not that.
That's a really good comparison.
And it is constantly parading around like, I'm a Spider-Man movie, and it's like, you're really not. You're so fantastically not. I have Peter Parker in me. No, you really shouldn't. I cannot emphasize enough how dumb a decision it is to put Peter in this movie for like 6 different reasons. Like, there's a bunch of reasons why not to do it. And yet you just plowed on. Like this has Avi Rand written all over. Avi Rand and Amy Pascal, I bet you money.
Oh yeah,
were behind all of the decisions.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like going back to last week when we talked about Godzilla and the $14 million budget. This had a $100 million budget.
Yeah.
And you cannot show me one part of this movie that I see that money being spent.
No.
Not even a single part of this movie.
No, the whole thing is a trash pile.
It's really fucking bad.
I kept on being pulled back to a musician and comedian, Dan Avidan, who, when told about the birds are extinct and been replaced with robots theory, quote unquote conspiracy theory, his reaction was, no, it's too stupid.
Yes.
And that was my reaction to this entire movie. It's too stupid.
Well, one of the benefits of this movie, and I'm assuming this has become the news story this week, thanks to also what Craven's going to become, the new Kevin Feige's, let's say, of the Sony Marvel Cinematic Universe are the guys that did Spider-Verse.
Okay.
They were named the new, like, Dave Filoni's.
I can live with that.
But what you were saying about the production,
that's the
team,
question.
Are they going to allow them, let's say the Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni thing.
Yeah.
You can tell, like, with Mandalorian Season 1 and some stuff, when she lets them do their own thing without her input.
Yeah.
But then you can obviously tell the shows that she has a lot of input in, and you're like, these are fucking stupid. Well, and someone's making terrible decisions.
It also makes me think, did Dave Filoni want Season 3 of Mandalorian to be this way? Or was this Disney saying, we need to do this, this, and this? And Dave Filoni being like, I guess I'll figure it out.
Yes.
And this, again, Avi Rand, it gave them the idea to use the Spot in Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
Because they came to him and they said, we need a D-list villain that nobody knows about. And he said, okay. And he gave them a few, and one of them was the Spot. I can't give credit to Avi Rand for any of the creative decisions made in that movie.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what he does. I've seen how he makes things.
Yes.
And this stinks of his terrible decision.
Oh, absolutely.
It just stinks of it. Him and Amy Pascal, it just stinks of both of them. And the writer-director's terrible decisions all the way down, everything about it. It had that sense of, I'm smarter than all the nerds, let me show you. It's not that hard to make one of these. And it's just like, no, what you did was you made a catastrophe, a fucking dumpster fire of a movie. And then you got bit. Because it turns out when you make a dumpster fire of a movie...
we're talking about spiders and you said you got bit.
When you make a dumpster fire of a movie, and then you release it, in the age of the internet kind of notices. They've graduated to this point of, like, we do things specifically to piss off people so that they get free clicks and free word of mouth, because IHOP is now only going to make burgers, like that kind of thing. The enrage marketing that people use nowadays. That's what this is. It's just like, we're just going to make the trash movies, the most trash movies you've ever seen, and then everybody's going to talk about how trash they are. And then we're going to just kind of be like, we're popular. I guess by definition, sure. But actually, I don't know. I don't think this is what popularity looks like, dude.
Yeah. And it's like, the frustrating thing with Avi Rand for me is he's done some great things.
He's done good things. Well, he's been on productions that were good.
He's produced some great things.
I don't know what his role was in those productions.
Yes.
Right? Because, like, if he goes to the creators of Across the Spider-Verse and tells them to do the Spot, that's one thing. If he goes to them and tells them to do the Spot and to cast Jason Schwartzman and to do this and this and this, that's a different thing. I think it's more the former than the latter. He comes in and he says, you can do this, and then the creative people take that and run.
Yeah.
And if it's a good creative team, then they can do great work. If they keep coming back to him for advice, that's where you get into problems.
But, like, here's a good example. He was the executive producer in the same year of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury, and the original Blade. Same year. And it's like, how do you do one or the other?
I would bet you money that the blood monster at the end was his idea.
Oh,
I would
absolutely.
bet you money.
Absolutely.
That has Avi Rand written all over it. All over it.
And the rest of the movie, they were able to get away with doing their own thing. And then he's like, no, you got to have... What was the name of the...
We have this new CGI, which we should use it.
what was the name? John Peters with the infamous Superman, where he had the big spider he wanted Superman Lives to fight, but then he puts it in Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
This is like Avi Arad. He's like, no, I need a big CGI thing, so you got to put it in.
I go back to my first Madam Web and my first Spider-Man the animated series from the 1990s.
Which he was a producer
Avi Arad was a producer on.
Yes.
Avi Arad did not make that show what it is. John Semper Jr. made that show what it is. Avi Arad was just kind of there.
Yes.
And he provided the money and kind of gave some tips here and there. But he was not the creative force behind that show. Anytime him and Pascal take reins, it's always bad.
Yes.
It's always bad.
Yes. And a lot of it is they have the right intentions at first where they want to make a good movie. But then as it's going, their interjections take away from the movie and put it into the spectacle category. And the spectacle is never a good idea.
Well, this is my thing, is that when we talk about them, here's a point of connection that I can't guarantee, but I would be willing to bet money.
Okay.
Who do you think told Raimi to put Venom in Spider-Man 3?
Oh, it had to have been him.
It's Pascal.
Yes.
And Arad. It was them.
Yes.
They were the producers, the non-name producers who insisted that this movie had to have this, and this. And so instead of having the movie that Raimi wanted to make, you have all this other bullshit. And of course it's them. It's always them. This is the Harry Potter theory. If something's going wrong, I can almost guarantee you Potter is somewhere involved in it. Like, he is 100%. If he isn't now, he will be.
Yeah.
Like, they are always responsible when something goes wrong. So,
yeah.
I don't have anything else to say about this trash movie.
I don't either. It's terrible. It's awful.
I was going to try and come up with, like, what I would have done differently, but I don't even want to spend that time on it because this is a trash movie. The only way to fix it is to completely overhaul the entire thing.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you can say from this movie. There's literally nothing that I would say from this movie.
What I would say is Sony has got to stop making superhero movies.
For a while.
Unless you just do animated and go along the lines of Spider-Verse, do animated, fine. Got to stop making live action.
You got to stop making live action movies.
Until you can figure out a cohesive universe with the MCU that you can say, hey, listen, how about we have all these characters as part of your universe, but when it comes to their solo movies, we will make them with your understanding. It'll have the connection. But when they do the big team up, you guys can do the team up to the MCU.
Well, and how telling is it that when this movie opens, you have the 100 years of Columbia Pictures. And I'm like, don't brag on this one, guys. This is not the one to brag. But then when the Marvel logo comes up, it's the exact same Marvel logo as the Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Which means that's the level of connectivity that Marvel wants to have to this project. They don't want their name on it. They want their name on it in the sense that that's the only way they can make money from it, but they do not want to be associated with this. And because it's a terrible movie.
It's so fucking bad. It was so good. All right, folks. Well, that was Nerd Pod Generation, episode 142. If it's your first time listening to us or listening to one of our rants, I really hope you enjoyed it because we do enjoy these rant shows to the point that there was a hiccup in the show that will get edited. Is Al gets so into it, he hit the table and it unhooked the microphone.
I fucked up microphones for a little bit.
It's been a long time since that's happened.
Yeah.
But that tells you the quality of the rant. I appreciate it.
That wasn't even at the Cornwall point.
No, it wasn't.
I started hitting the table at Cornwall.
Prior to that, yeah,
and then when Smokey the Bear didn't show up to punish these girls, I was like, I can't fucking take this anymore.
You know what though? I love these episodes, but man, I'm tired. I'm ready for a nap.
Exhausted.
I'm so exhausted. So everyone, once again, NerdPod Generations, go to nerdpodgen.com. Make sure to go to youtube.com, look us up. Al, who did our artwork and music?
Our art is by Courtney Howell. Our wonderful theme song is by Brendan Williams and James Connolly.
Awesome.
I am Alfred Jutsum, who is exhausted and sweaty and tired. And until next week, friends and enemies, I'm going to make Steve pick something that I like because we still have to talk about the Acolyte. We haven't even gotten into that.
Oh, God.
Forest Fire.
Yeah, we'll get to that next week.
You know, canon is important, folks, and trying to rewrite it is always a dicey proposition.
No such thing.
Oh, my God. Have a great week, friends and enemies.
Peace.